Chapter 239, Pilgrimage, 2. Shu Qing, watch over him. I'm going back to the office to settle some stuff. Before Lan Qingyue was gone, she cast a death stare at Wang Xian and urged Guan Shu Qing. Don't worry. I'll watch over him. Guan Shu Qing nodded. Humph. Wang Xian gave a bitter smile when Guan Shu Qing threw him a warning look after Lan Qingyue left. Miracle Dr. Wang, let's go. It will take more than 2 hours to reach Wuduan Mountain from here. Elder Fang looked at Wang Xian and spoke casually, thinking he was a sex poodle to herself. Let's take the caravan. Just right. All of us can fit into it. Wang Xian told them as he swept a glance at the group and headed to the car. Xiao Yu, Elder Fang, Guan Shu Qing, Sun Lingxiu, Miracle Dr. Blood Man Xiao Hong, Mo Yuan, Mo Qinglong and Wang Xian made 8 people in total. Miracle Dr. Blood Man was in his usual vibrant red tuxedo. His face went pale as he observed the group with surprise. Needless to say, his master was an inborn expert. In addition, that Miracle Dr. Wang and his 2 other servants were inborn experts. Counting him in the group would make 5 inborn experts in a group of 8. Such a lineup surprised Xiao Hong. If we had a few more experts, we could form a royal family. Xiao Hong thought to himself. Young master, this is the information about Flame Palace researched by Mo Yuan. Mo Qinglong handed a document to Wang Xian in the car. Oh. Wang Xian took it with surprise. Xiao Yu and Elder Fang looked over with curiosity too. They have 13 inborn experts, more than 30 half-step to inborn experts, around 80 level 9 martial artists, and their saint and saintess were on the outstanding young heroes chart. They were ranked 17 and 14 respectively. Xiao Yu and Elder Fang read aloud the information on the document as they stared with their eyes agape. They are strong. They actually have 13 inborn experts. Xiao Yu could not help but exclaim, is this how strong a sacred sect is? According to the information Thistles and Thorns sect got, Flame Palace only has 11 inborn experts, and they don't have so many half-step to inborn experts and level 9 martial artists. Elder Fang knit her eyebrows slightly. This information is accurate, said Mo Qinglong to Elder Fang. Looks like Flame Palace has concealed their actual strength. They are among the sacred sects indeed. Elder Fang exclaimed. As compared to such a domineering Flame Palace, Thistles and Thorns sect was nothing. Master, will the Flame Palace bully Thistles and Thorns sect? Xiao Yu looked at her master with concern. Don't worry. Elder Fang squeezed a smile on her face, but she was, in fact, worried sick. Relax. I'm here, aren't I? With me around, what can the Flame Palace do? Wang Xian smiled and stroked Xiao Yu's head. Yes, I still have a formidable brother. Xiao Yu lifted her chin and showed a smile on her face. The car was driving fast on the road. Wuduan Mountain was situated in the north city of Dongqing Province. Wuduan Mountain was made up of 5 100-meter peaks, surrounding a special scenic area in the center. This scenic area only opened in the spring, and tourists were prohibited from entering during other seasons. Wuduan Mountain had 5 entrances. Wang Xian and the rest began to observe the environment after the car was parked at the entrance. The floor around the 100 meters towering peaks was covered by marble. All kinds of luxury cars were parked in the car park, while the imposing experts strolled inside. Many martial artists were standing around the entrance. They were dressed in uniforms with huge flames embroidered in front of their chests. Even the entrance guards are level 7 martial artists. They are simply domineering. No wonder Flame Palace can be the only force that rose to become a sacred sect within decades. We can tell how strong Flame Palace is just by a glimpse of it. Sacred sects. When can we be promoted to the sacred sects? Sigh, I guess we're hopeless. The few influential families and sects from the surrounding provinces exclaimed softly when they saw the guards at the entrance. They walked in with awe, just like what the invitation of Flame Palace had written, pilgrimage. Flame Palace did not dispatch all their people here for this recruitment. It's not even a third of their total strength. I heard there will be foreign-born experts from Flame Palace here. With them around, they can suppress everyone on the spot. As Wang Xian and the group headed inside, the discussions were heard from the surroundings again. Your invitation card, please, the guards of Flame Palace asked them coldly when they came to an intersection point. Mo Qinglong placed 2 invitation cards on the table. The guards took a glance and gestured for them to enter. Wow, what a huge square! When they walked into Wuduan Mountain, a vast square unfolded before their eyes. Guan Shuqing was shocked as she looked inside. A large cauldron, 5 meters tall, was situated in the center. An immense flame was burning in it, making it look magnificent. Dozens of level 8 martial artists from Flame Palace were surrounding the cauldron. The entire square was about 2 to 3 kilometers in radius. A field that was similar to the ancient martial arts field was located in the center. Read more chapter on novel full. At this time, more than 1,000 people were gathered here. Even though thousands of people sounded like a huge number, it looked like a few in the spacious square. The entire square looked like an ancient underworld with the surrounding pine trees. Master, sect leader, and the rest are over there. Just then, Xiaoyu pointed to the entrance on the right after she scanned the surrounding environment. Let's go over there, said Elder Fong as she looked at Wang Xian before she walked to Thistles and Thorns sect. Sect leader. Xiaoyu and Elder Fong walked over and greeted sect leader Tang. Saintess. Thistles and Thorns sect had sent more than 20 people, including several elders. The elders, along with the attendants, greeted Xiaoyu. Since the Flame Palace already knew Xiaoyu was their saintess, there was no need for them to hide anymore. Miracle Dr. Wang, thank you for being here. Sect leader Tang bowed to Wang Xian, expressing his gratitude. Wang Xian waved a dismissive hand. When will Flame Palace start their pilgrimage? Noon. They will start the recruitment of experts and disciples at noon. Sect leader Tang answered. We're still early then. Wang Xian looked at the time and sat on a stone bench with nothing to do. Guan Shuqing sat with him on the stone bench beside him. Sun Lingxiu found a seat nearby with a smiling face while the miracle Dr. Blood Man stood beside her respectfully. More and more people gathered in the square. Most of the martial artists carried their swords and sabers. The atmosphere began to liven up. The crowd was distinguished by their uniforms. From their attire, it was easy to tell which sect or family they came from. I saw 5 first-class forces. All of them were led by inborn experts. That's formidable. Quite a number of second-class forces are here too. No one dared to defy a word from sacred sect. Chapter 240, Pilgrimage, 3. Voices from a few attendants and elders of Thistles and Thorns sect sounded from the side. Wang Xian looked briefly across the crowd before continuing his casual chat with Guan Shuqing. The one heading towards us is from the Fengyang family and the one at the forefront is Fengyang Lai, an inborn realm expert. Fengyang family is one of the strongest families in Feng City. They have a lot of descendants. The entire family has over 2,000 members and they are a huge family with more than 100 years of history. That young man right there is Fengyang Kai. He used to be the ranked 20th on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Greetings, family head of Fengyang family. Yeah, hee. Several people beside the Thistles and Thorns sect were whispering among themselves. When sect leader Tang saw Fengyang family walking in his direction, he immediately stood up and greeted them. Fengyang Lai, who was walking at the front, looked coldly at sect leader Tang before giving a forced smile. Sect leader Tang was a little embarrassed. However, he didn't say a word and sat to the side. Thistles and Thorns sect is really unlucky to offend an elder from the Flame Palace. The future development of Thistles and Thorns sect will become tough. It's their fault, offending those they shouldn't have. They only have themselves to blame. Two young men walking at the front of the Fengyang family crowd were chatting. They were quite loud and weren't concerned about the Thistles and Thorns sect who was just beside them. This made the crowd from Thistles and Thorns sect embarrassed. Wow! It's that beautiful girl. At this moment, the young man who was talking opened up the fan in his hand while staring intensely at the position beside Wang Xian. Looking at the clouds reminds me of her clothes. Looking at the flowers reminds me of her looks. The spring breeze blows and the flowers bloom. If I haven't seen her at the foot of the mountain for immortals, I'll see her under the moonlight by the abode of immortals. The young man recited a poem as he fanned himself. He was staring at Sun Lingxiu fervently. When Fengyang Lai saw his son, he smiled and said, "Let's just sit here while waiting." "Father, your son is going to get you a daughter-in-law," the young man with a folded fan smiled and said to his father. Fengyang Lai returned a faint smile before looking to Sun Lingxiu. "She's indeed beautiful and befitting of our Fengyang family." "Ha!" the young man laughed loudly. "Brother Kai, that girl is really stunning. I just wonder if she has a boyfriend." The young man beside him was stunned by Sun Lingxiu's beauty and commented enviously. "She sits with her legs closed together and the distance between her eyebrows is short. She's definitely still a virgin." Fengyang Kai moved his folded fan as he continued, "Rare. Rare. Holy and noble. Let me go over and get to know her." As he finished his words, he walked directly to Sun Lingxiu. "Hi, I'm Fengyang Kai from the Fengyang family. I am greatly attracted by your looks. May I know the name of this beautiful lady?" Fengyang Kai fanned himself lightly and gave off the vibe of a scholar from Jiangnan. Sun Lingxiu sat beside Wang Xian with a medical book from Miracle Dr. Blood Man in her hands. She simply sat there quietly while reading. As she flipped through the book, the stunning disposition she displayed was similar to that of a deity who had descended to the mortal realm. Sun Lingxiu ignored Fengyang Kai's question completely. As an inborn expert, she could hear his conversation with others previously and had chosen to completely ignore him. Sun Lingxiu is really attractive. There's actually someone trying to pick her up. Guan Shuqing, who was beside Wang Xian, was a little envious while speaking to Wang Xian. "You are equally attractive." Wang Xian smiled and pinched her cheeks. He then turned around and looked towards Sun Lingxiu. When the crowd from Thistles and Thorns sect saw Fengyang Kai greeting the beautiful girl who came with Wang Xian, they looked over inquisitively. "Huh?" Seeing Sun Lingxiu completely ignoring him, Fengyang Kai was slightly shocked. "Brother Kai, what's the matter? Why don't you let me, your brother, give it a try?" The other young man by the side spoke with a smile when he saw Sun Lingxiu completely ignoring his brother. Fengyang Kai looked a little embarrassed. He leaned towards Sun Lingxiu again and asked, "Hey girl, it's rude to be ignoring others, right? My master is already ignoring you. Don't be so thick-skinned and keep coming over." Miracle Dr. Blood Man, Xiao Hong, who was standing beside Sun Lingxiu, lifted his head slightly and spoke with contempt. His broken Mandarin sounded a little quirky. "Huh?" Upon hearing Miracle Dr. Blood Man, Fengyang Kai was shocked. He squinted his eyes and stared at him. "An underling has no right to speak here." "Hey, girl. I, Fengyang Kai, am talking to you. Are you not going to show me any respect?" His face sank as he stared at Sun Lingxiu, who was still going through the book. In his eyes, fury was raging. However, Sun Lingxiu still didn't say a word. Miracle Dr. Blood Man, Xiao Hong, walked forward and stared at him with disdain. He then remarked, "Get lost." Miracle Dr. Blood Man's quirky Mandarin coupled with the disdain look on him was hilarious. "Shut up and get lost." "Pa." When Fengyang Kai heard Miracle Dr. Blood Man, his already embarrassed look sank further. He waved the folded fan in his hands and a crisp noise sounded instantly. The fan was in fact made of metal and wasn't any ordinary fan. Hey girl, you have gone a little overboard. He looked coldly towards Sun Lingxiu once again. Huh? Some members from the Fengyang family also frowned and looked over, feeling confused about what was happening. Fuck your mother. You asking me to shut up? Asking me to get lost? Hey, brat, I'm telling you to scram now. Can you hear me? Brat. When Miracle Dr. Blood Man heard Fengyang Kai, he immediately chided him. What the? This. Wang Xian, Xiao Yu, and the crowd who was watching silently from the side couldn't help but break into laughter. The crowd of Thistles and Thorns sect was also shocked as they looked at Miracle Dr. Blood Man. A well-dressed and good-looking foreigner was hurling vulgarities in Mandarin. His voice and expression at that moment were truly hilarious. Even Sun Lingxiu, who was reading a book silently, couldn't help but break into laughter. You. In that instant, Fengyang Kai's expression turned violent and savage as he stared at Miracle Dr. Blood Man. When Fengyang Lai heard Miracle Dr. Blood Man, killing intent flashed in his eyes. Fuck your mother. Wouldn't that be fuck his wife? You must be tired of living. Fengyang Kai's eyes turned cold as he swung his folded fan towards the chest of the Miracle Dr. Blood Man. Brat, I can kill you with a swing of my hand. Miracle Dr. Blood Man, Xiao Hong, was extremely pissed. He waved his hand casually and slapped Fengyang Kai in the face before anyone reacted to it. What? Fengyang Kai was horrified. Following which, a strong force sent him falling to the ground. Bam! His body smashed onto the floor and blood was oozing out from his mouth. Filthy blood. You've dirted my hand. Miracle Dr. Blood Man saw a drop of blood land on his fingers. He took out a piece of tissue impatiently and wiped it off with contempt. You are such an ugly guy and yet you dare to flirt with my master. Trash. Trash. Miracle Dr. Blood Man stepped on Fengyang Kai's face with his feet and remarked with disdain. You must be tired of living. Chapter 241, Pilgrimage, 4. Boom. Fengyang Lai and Fengyang family stood up together. Their icy cold faces were crawling with murderous intent as they stared at Miracle Dr. Blood Man. This. Everyone from Thistles and Thorns sect was dumbfounded at the scene. Darn, this foreigner was definitely a supreme talent. He's at least a half step to inborn expert. When sect leader Tang looked at Miracle Dr. Blood Man, he was stunned. However, he frowned immediately when he saw the people from Fengyang family. How dare you injure my son? You must be tired of living. Fengyang Lai jerked his body and exuded a strong and intense aura from it. He glared at Miracle Dr. Blood Man with a pair of emotionless eyes before he stretched out his hand, taking a sword from a middle-aged man next to him. Inborn. The surrounding martial artists within a radius of a few hundred meters away were drawn by the immense aura exploded by Inborn expert immediately. Everyone looked over in shock. It's the Fengyang family. That's Fengyang Lai. Who's the one who offended them? Another first-class force? Otherwise, who dares to offend them? The crowd looked over with doubt. Even people from the Flame Palace in the middle turned their attention over here. Ha, old freak. Since you can't even teach your son well, I'll have to do it for you. Why? Miracle Dr. Blood Man's expression remained unchanged. He maintained his disdainful look when he looked at Fengyang Lai. However, the scarlet tuxedo that he was wearing got darker as he released bloody aura from his body. This is inborn. Sensing the demeanor of Miracle Dr. Blood Man, Fengyang Lai sharpened his eyes as he fixed them upon him. Hee. Miracle Dr. Blood Man widened his mouth. How dare you disturb my master? Count him lucky that I didn't kill him. Master. Fengyang Lai heard that word again. Radiance flickered in his eyes as he peered at Sun Lingxiu, who was sitting there with a darkened expression. But at this time, Miracle Dr. Blood Man made a move at a frightening and daunting speed. A red figure flashed immediately. Even if I'm tired of living, can you kill me? Old freak. When the Miracle Dr. Blood Man reappeared, he was already a half-meter away from Feng Yanglai's left-hand side. Scarlet radiance blinked in his eyes as he fixed his cold eyes on Feng Yanglai. You. Feng Yanglai was appalled as he gazed at Miracle Dr. Blood Man with his blood run cold. In fact, he did not even capture the trace of his opponent's movement. Realizing this, the hand that was holding the sword trembled slightly. The surrounding crowd from Feng Yang family also gazed frightfully at Miracle Dr. Blood Man. They swallowed their saliva and clung to their weapons tightly. So, sorry. It was my son's fault. Feng Yanglai apologized with an embarrassed look. That's right. Hayak. Be good. I'll kill all of you if you continue to infuriate my master. Miracle Dr. Blood Man broke out in ghastly laughter before he flashed back to Sun Lingxiu. He straightened his clothes and stood by her side, just like a British steward. By ignoring them, he acted as though nothing had happened. No one thought that such a person could be a daunting inborn expert. And no one would have thought the pretty girl reading her book quietly was the master of this inborn expert. Take Kai over for treatment. Feng Yanglai spoke to the members beside him with a vile expression. Yes, Chief. Feng Yang family gazed at the foreigner in a scarlet coat with a stern look. Eventually, they turned their attention to the pretty girl who was reading a book. What background does she have to have an inborn expert as her slave? Everyone pondered the doubt to themselves. How daunting. The people from Thistles and Thorns sect also peered at Miracle Dr. Blood Man with shocked looks. People around Miracle Dr. Wang are not any average people. Sect leader Tang was stunned, but he heaved a sigh of relief to himself. The sects and families far away shook their heads eventually as they wondered. Chief, who is that girl and that middle-aged man in a scarlet coat? How could they be so domineering? An old man squatted beside Feng Yang Kai and proceeded with his treatment. His face was solemn as he swept a glance towards the other direction and asked in a low voice. I don't know. A master of inborn expert is definitely not an average person. Feng Yanglai clenched his fist tightly with a vile expression. He felt a slap on his face when he recalled what he said just now, a girl that was befitting of the Feng Yang family. Given what happened just now, he had to succumb to that mysterious existence despite the fact that he was an inborn expert. Regardless of the backings they had, he was unable to deal with that foreigner in a scarlet coat. Could they be from the Thistles and Thorns sect? A young man suddenly asked. How is that possible? Where on earth did Thistles and Thorns sect get such domineering experts? Besides, only that terrifying scarlet man made his move just now. Wang Xian peered casually at Feng Yang family as he revealed a smile on his face upon hearing their conversations. He did not make his move just now because Miracle Dr. Blood Man was around. Given Sun Lingxiu's ability, she did not require his help either. Without 3 or 4 inborn experts, no one could really take Sun Lingxiu and Miracle Dr. Blood Man down. An average first-class force was nothing to them. Those are disciples from Flame Palace. All of them are young talents. They have large numbers of talented people. No average first-class forces can be comparable to them. I must join Flame Palace and become one of their members today. At this time, a commotion broke out not far away. All the attention was turned to that side as everyone witnessed the young disciples from Flame Palace. They walked out, wearing uniforms with flames embroidered on them. There were about 30 to 40 disciples aged 30 and below. All of them were considered young talents. They made an impressive presence with haughty looks on their faces, giving off immense self-confidence on their own. The core disciples from various families and sects felt inferior when they saw them. The Flame Palace will be recruiting outstanding disciples today. Please get ready if you wish to join us. We'll have assessments later on, the disciples from Flame Palace said in a low voice as they swept their gazes around. Child, you must work hard to get into the Flame Palace later on. Dad, I'll become the disciple of the Flame Palace. Once you join the Flame Palace and become a disciple of sacred sects, you'll have a strong backing in the future. There would be no need to worry for the rest of your life. The surrounding crowd was thrilled with what the disciples of Flame Palace had said. All of them turned to their children and reminded them. They would be extremely lucky if they could join a sacred sect. Hey, disciples from Flame Palace are heading towards us. Just then, Guan Shuqing was looking ahead as she told Wang Xian. Wang Xian spun around and exhibited a smile as soon as he spotted the disciples walking towards them. Wang Xian had seen the leader before. It was the young man who came to the Divine Dragon Medical Hall with an old man the other day. The rest of them were Mu Wanwan and her clique, who they had seen in the school canteen. Chapter 242, Pilgrimage or Tearing Down the Place, 1. Brother Wanshui, who would have expected that miracle doctor to be so brazen to reject our Flame Palace's invitation to become our dedicated miracle doctor? How arrogant is he? In the field of the Wuduan Mountain, Mu Wanwan lifted her head slightly and gave off an arrogant vibe while speaking to the young man beside her. He's just a brazen factionless doctor. When I went with my master to invite him, he was so arrogant and didn't have any respect for us at all. The young man's eyes turned chilly. He looked ahead of him and smirked. He didn't give us face even when Elder Lu went to invite him personally. Brother Wanshui, why are we still trying to invite him? He's just a factionless doctor who we, the Flame Palace, could easily crush. Beside him, a young man remarked vengefully. That's not how it works. Although our Flame Palace has advanced to become a sacred sect, we are still too weak among the sacred sects. We need to recruit various experts and Miracle Dr. Wang is rather capable, answered the young man plainly. However, he added with a chilling expression, however, if Miracle Dr. Wang chooses to remain arrogant, our Flame Palace wouldn't let him off easily. Our Flame Palace has yet to establish our prestige. This is the last opportunity we will be offering him. Brother Wanshui, hasn't the palace master invited the powerful Miracle Dr. Shenhua? Miracle Dr. Shenhua's strength could even rank in the top 5 in our country. Why do we still need to invite that Miracle Dr. Wang? The young man who spoke earlier frowned and asked. Miracle Dr. Shenhua couldn't remain in our country all the time. Moreover, it's a good thing for us to have another miracle doctor joining us, the other young man answered plainly. This will be the last invitation. If he doesn't accept it, our Flame Palace wouldn't be bothered either. The group of Flame Palace disciples discussed among themselves before walking towards where Wang Xian was. Oh. I had not expected people from the Thistles and Thorns sect to be here. Miracle Dr. Wang seems to have a good relationship with the Thistles and Thorns sect. When the young man saw the crowd from Thistles and Thorns sect beside Wang Xian, his eyes flickered. Nonetheless, he walked directly towards Wang Xian. Miracle Dr. Wang, my master, Elder Lu, would like to extend the invitation to you once again and invite you to join our Flame Palace. This will also be our last invitation, said the young man plainly after getting ahead of Wang Xian. It's still the same answer. Wang Xian looked at the young man, smiled and shook his head. Since Miracle Dr. Wang isn't willing to give our Flame Palace face, we shall forget about this. I hope Miracle Doctor will conduct yourself well in the future. The young man revealed a cold smirk before leaving. He's just a small factionless doctor and yet he rejected the invitation from the Flame Palace. How foolish is he? Mu Wanwan looked coldly at Wang Xian before following behind the young man and leaving. Dang! At this moment, the crisp sounds of a bell were heard throughout the entire Wuduan Mountain. Dang! Those ancient martial artist families and sects who were here stood up and headed towards the central location. Swish swish swish. At this moment, 4 figures landed on one of the mountain peaks before approaching the large cauldron on the central area. 3 old men and a middle-aged man stood on the 4 corners of the large cauldron respectively. Boom! At this moment, the flames in the large cauldron below them raged up and rose over 10 meters into the skies. The aura of the 4 men connected and a strong disposition filled the entire field of Wuduan Mountain. So strong! What stifling pressure! The surrounding ancient martial artist families and sects were shocked. All of them lowered their heads slightly as they walked towards the central location. Swish swish swish. At the 5 entrances of Wuduan Mountain, disciples of Flame Palace entered. Each entrance had approximately 200 disciples. All of them wore neat attire and gave off extraordinary vibes. The 4 Flame Palace elders who were standing on the large cauldron showed satisfactory smiles. Looking at the approaching ancient martial artist families and sects who had their heads lowered, they raised their heads proudly. This was what pilgrimage was supposed to be. This is deserving of a sacred sect. The strength of their inborn experts isn't something that could be matched by ordinary inborn experts. Isn't that wuxia? Mo Qinglong squinted his eyes and took a glance at the 4 inborn experts on the large cauldron. When he looked ahead, he spotted a familiar figure. It's wuxia. This kid chose to roam alone and has made a name for himself. Mo Yuan looked over and commented. Wang Xian saw Mo wuxia but acted nonchalantly as he walked towards the central location. 3 days ago, our Flame Palace invited various heroes, families and sects over. Today, everyone has come. I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone for your recognition of our Flame Palace. Seeing the crowd around them, an old man announced this with a smile and directed his voice to the ears of everyone. Our Flame Palace was established 230 years ago. Now that we have advanced to become a sacred sect, we would like to recruit all heroes and talented disciples to join us so we can grow stronger together. Here, I'd like to announce the entire first-class force, Fire Origin Sect, joining our Flame Palace and becoming disciples of Flame Palace. The old man looked ahead of him and revealed a smile. I, Yan Guangwen, shall lead all the disciples of Fire Origin Sect to join the Flame Palace. From today onwards, Fire Origin Sect shall no longer exist. From the center of the crowd, an old man walked forward and shouted. Rumble. First-class sect, Fire Origin Sect, has joined the Flame Palace. This is shocking. That's an entire first-class force. For them to all join the Flame Palace, this is truly shocking. Incredible, Flame Palace has managed to convince the Fire Origin Sect. When the shocking news was announced, the surrounding martial artists were clearly astonished. Other than that, rogue cultivator and inborn expert of combustion palm, Chao Haokong, will also be joining our Flame Palace. The voice of the old man sounded once again. I'm Chao Haokong of the Flame Palace. An old man walked slowly ahead. Clasping his right fist in his left palm, he greeted the crowd ahead of him. Between his hands, flames were raging furiously. Chao Haokong. Chao Haokong of the combustion palm has joined the Flame Palace. Oh my god, 2 inborn experts have joined them. Who would have expected these experts to join the Flame Palace? The Flame Palace has gotten substantially stronger. Even if all the other forces here allied together, we wouldn't be a match for Flame Palace. The crowd looked towards Chao Haokong in shock once again. 23rd ranked Miracle Doctor on the Miracle Doctor's chart, Miracle Doctor Tai Mingshou, will be joining the Flame Palace. The old man wasn't finished with his announcement as he continued with a smile. I'm Tai Mingshou of the Flame Palace, an old man walked forward and shouted. And for the final announcement, let us welcome Miracle Doctor Shenhua, whom our palace master has invited over personally. When the old man finished his words, an old man with a foreigner's looks walked to the side of Tai Mingshou. He had a faint glow emitting from his body which gradually shrouded an area that spanned 100 meters. The entire space turned to be similar to an immortal realm. Tai Mingshou greeted Shenhua deferentially. top-tier miracle Dr. Shenhua from Europe. Who could have expected Flame Palace to be able to invite Shenhua to the Flame Palace? Insane. This is insane. They are truly deserving of the name, Sacred Sect Flame Palace. Chapter 243, Pilgrimage or Tearing Down the Place, 2. The experts who were recruited by the Flame Palace stunned everyone. They stared dumbfoundedly at the two inborn experts and two miracle doctors who were sitting there. One of the miracle doctors is a top-notch European miracle Dr. Shenhua. I heard he possessed a strength of inborn realm. All the surrounding spectators gazed at the disciples of Flame Palace with more respect. This has spurred all the disciples of Flame Palace to look proud. They lifted their heads up slightly with pride. The Flame Palace will be recruiting another batch of elites today. Those who wish to join the Flame Palace, you may participate in the assessment later. For those who wish to join the Flame Palace of Sacred Sects, you must have outstanding abilities. For 20 years old and below, you must be at least a level 5 martial artist. For 30 years old and below, you must be a level 6 martial artist and level 7 for those who are between 30 to 40 years old. For 50 years old and below, you'll need to be a level 8 martial artist. For level 8 and above, you're eligible to join us. However, we can't promise you'll be recruited even if your level of cultivation meets all the requirements. We still need to test your combat ability. At that time, our disciples will be testing you. The old man continued with a smile, we'll start from those martial artists below 30. Once you have passed the test, you'll become a disciple of Sacred Sect. The glory is waiting for you. Elder, I want to join Flame Palace and become a disciple of Sacred Sect. As soon as the old man finished his sentence, a young guy took an eager step forward as he exclaimed loudly. No hurry. The old man drew a smile on his face when he saw the eager young man. He cast a glance at the disciples by the side. Softly, he shouted, where are the disciples aged 30 and below? Present. About 70 disciples stood out in a row and answered at the top of their lungs. Every one of them was exhibiting a prodigious amount of self-confidence. At the very front stood a guy and a girl with blazing eyes and extraordinary demeanors. Our saint and saintess will be doing the assessment. Those who pass will be recruited by the Flame Palace. The old man made his speech slowly. The rest of the elders moved swiftly and sat beside the huge cauldron. The flame rose, exhibiting domineering outward-bearing force. Wan Fanghua, Saintess of Flame Palace. Mo Tsanghai, Saint of Flame Palace. The saint and saintess of Flame Palace took 2 steps forward as they overlooked the surroundings with haughty looks. Greetings to saint and saintess. The martial artists around the area immediately clamored. The status of saint and saintess of Flame Palace were just after the elders. Hence, the two of them were young talents from the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. If you want to join us, show us what you've got. Don't assume that you are a talent. Our Flame Palace has no room for mediocrity. Show us everything you've got. Saintess Wan Fanghua turned to the people around her and said, those young people who want to join the Flame Palace, step forward now. Wow! Once Saintess Wan Fanghua finished her talk, hundreds of young people walked out with excitement on their faces, staring at the front. There were 2 kinds of forces in the underworld. One was the sacred sects, while the rest made up the other one. Joining sacred sects was as good as achieving great success in life. It was something of the utmost glory. Even those disciples from first-class forces also wanted to join sacred sects very much. And all the families and sects supported their offspring in joining the sacred sects and becoming an expert there. Level 5 martial artists, please line up in a row. Same goes for level 6, 7, and 8. Please line up in your respective levels. Saintess Wan Fanghua gazed at everyone and said nonchalantly. Level 6 martial artists who were 30 years old and below were known to be gifted people in any sects or families. Level 7 was considered to be a supreme talent. Level 8 martial artists could make it off to the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Hundreds of young people lined up in rows. There were only about 7 to 8 level 5 juveniles who were below 20 years old. Becoming a level 5 martial artist at such an age was considered to be something of extreme talent. Level 6 martial artists had the most number with more than 80 people. There were only 3 level 7 martial artists, and no level 8 martial artists were below the age of 30. Song Shen from Flame Palace, 19 years old. I will be testing 2 level 5 martial artists. Zhao Wu from Flame Palace, 27 years old. I will be testing 2 level 6 martial artists. Just then, disciples from Flame Palace stepped out and spoke to those juveniles and young people who were here for the assessment. Wow! They are very confident to challenge 2 people of the same level as them at the same time. Impressive to challenge 2 people of the same level as them right away. The sacred sect really lives up to their name. The Flame Palace is exhibiting their strength. When the sects and families noticed each Flame Palace disciple was going to test 2 martial artists of their same level, they were overwhelmed by shock. The 4 Flame Palace elders on the stage wore faint smiles. They wanted to exhibit the power of the Flame Palace through this method. Me. After you. Me. The juveniles and young people around were not convinced. Bring it on. Yet the Flame Palace disciples displayed confident looks. With a simple move, they leaped to vacant space at the side. 2 juveniles immediately followed. Do it. A disciple placed his hands behind his back and spoke impassively. Sure. The 2 juveniles exchanged a glance before they launched an attack at that Flame Palace disciple. However, the outcome blew everyone away. That disciple exuded a faint glow in red and fired off explosive and ferocious assaults that forced his 2 opponents of the same level back. The sacred sect disciple indeed. They are domineering. They are formidable. Is this the power of a sacred sect? Everyone was stunned while the ones fighting with Flame Palace disciple had cold sweat breaking out from their foreheads as they were appalled. Bam! At this moment, that disciple of Flame Palace sent one of the juveniles flying with a punch. The other juvenile had a drastic change in his expression with wariness all over his face. Enough! The Flame Palace disciple stopped and shook his head as he looked at the 2 of them who he had exchanged blows with. Poor in actual combat. Fail. Saintess Luan Fanghua said with a calm voice. Fail? Both of them were level 6 martial artists at such an age, yet they could not make it to the Flame Palace. Such a strict test. But what they did was right. After all, it's the sacred sect. The disciples of sacred sect are just too formidable. Everyone around the field watched in awe. The art of cultivation in sacred sects is definitely better than those average sections. They can easily attain the realm above Inborn realm. Radiance flickered in Mo Qinglong's eyes as he sat below. Easily attain the realm above Inborn realm? What do you mean? Wang Xian asked doubtfully when he heard Mo Qinglong. Master, the art of cultivation is divided into many grades. Some of the mediocre ones would find it difficult to reach the Inborn realm, while some of them can easily do it. To achieve the realm above Inborn realm, you must practice an origin source, aka an attribute. But there aren't many of these techniques around, yet the Flame Palace is practicing one. Chapter 244, Pilgrimage or Tearing Down the Place, 3. The realm above the Inborn realm is often regarded as a myth. However, such a realm really exists. I can already feel it. However, it will be a little difficult to achieve the breakthrough, said Mo Qinglong to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. The realm above Inborn realm was referred to as immortals of the land by the people in the underworld. However, Inborn realm experts would refer to it as Dan realm. That would involve compressing internal energy within the elixir field into a Dan so as to achieve an advancement. However, it's extremely hard to compress one's internal energy into a Dan. The first issue lies in the art of cultivation. Art of cultivation has to have an elemental attribute. For example, Dan formed with metal, wood, and water. Art of cultivation would give metal Dan, wood Dan and water Dan respectively. While Wang Xian was chatting with Imo Qinglong, the assessment was going on quickly. Soon, only 25 qualified candidates emerged from an initial number of over 110 candidates. The 25 candidates remaining would gain the qualification to join the Flame Palace. There were plenty of genius-level talents in first-class forces that failed to make the cut. From this, one could tell how stringent the Flame Palace's assessment was. At the same time, it demonstrated how powerful the Flame Palace was. For ordinary sects, the Flame Palace was incredible and almighty. The selection of disciples below 30 years old had now ended. Saintess, Wan Fanghua, looked across the crowd of qualified disciples. Seeing their excited faces, she smiled and looked to the crowd below the stage. Before we carry on with the subsequent assessment, I have something personal to settle. As she spoke, her gaze looked down and eventually landed at where Thistles and Thorns sect was. My master, Elder Duan, has had a little personal animosity against sect leader Tang of the Thistles and Thorns sect in the past. This has to be settled first, said the saintess, Wan Fanghua, as she smirked. Rumble. When she finished her sentence, the surrounding families and sects erupted into discussions. Thousands of people from the entire field looked towards where Thistles and Thorns sect was. Sympathy, contempt and expressions of pleasure in others' misery was written across their faces. A small Thistles and Thorns sect has offended an elder of Flame Palace. It's over. They are completely finished. Based on the strength that was demonstrated by the Flame Palace, annihilating the Thistles and Thorns sect will be just like killing an ant. Thistles and Thorns sect is going to be annihilated. My master is an elder of a sacred sect and will naturally not lower her status by bullying a second-class force. Saintess, Wan Fanghua, opened her mouth again and the crowd went silent immediately. Our Flame Palace will also not lower our status by targeting you. In that case. Wan Fanghua paused for a moment and looked to where the Thistles and Thorns sect was. Send your best disciple forward. Based on my understanding, the Thistles and Thorns sect seems to have assigned a saintess. Let our disciples take a look at her. If your saintess cultivation level isn't bad, we might just spare you. However, if she can't make it, you guys can start disbanding. You guys can start disbanding. When the last 5 words of the sentence ended, she emitted a faint aura towards where Thistles and Thorns sect was. Domineering. This is the might of a sacred sect. They aren't killing you because they are afraid of staining their hands. However, they could force you to disband directly. The Flame Palace is indeed deserving of the name of a sacred sect. Domineering, with contempt for everything else. Although they aren't taking actions themselves, they can make you disband directly. Incredible and mighty. The surrounding crowd sighed and looked towards Thistles and Thorns sect. At this moment, everyone in the Thistles and Thorns sect was embarrassed. Some of them were even shivering from anger. The face of sect leader Tang, who was standing in front of the group, was as white as a sheet. Asking me to disband the Thistles and Thorns sect. That would be the greatest humiliation ever. He would be letting down his ancestors and would bear the insults and shame for life if he had to disband the sect. Elder Tang looked bitterly at an elder of Flame Palace. Elder Duan looked down at sect leader Tang with scorn and disdain. The two of them weren't on the same level at this moment. A word from him and he could make the Thistles and Thorns sect disband. Sect leader, didn't they want me to step forward? TSK. I'll show them what I'm capable of. Xiao Yu saw the crowd looking at them with scorn and saw how the disciples of the Flame Palace looked down on them. At this moment, she was filled with rage. Xiao Yu, sect leader has let you down. Sect leader Tang looked bitterly at Xiao Yu. Rest assured, sect leader. Thistles and Thorns sect won't disband. Didn't they want to see my strength? I'll show them how incredible I am. Xiao Yu clenched her small fist and answered angrily. Yeah. With the Flame Palace identifying Xiao Yu specifically, sect leader Tang had no ways to go against the Flame Palace. He could only nod his head slowly and turn to glance at Wang Xian. Wang Xian didn't say anything. Letting Xiao Yu fight would be an important trial for her. If she wanted to become an expert, she had to be able to face some of the issues. If Wang Xian had kept her protected under his wing, Xiao Yu would never be able to spread her wings and fly in the vast skies. There are some things that she had to face alone. Saintess, Wang Yu, of the Thistles and Thorns sect seeking guidance from the disciple of the Flame Palace. 2. After obtaining the approval of the sect leader, Xiao Yu stepped forward and stared coldly at Wan Fanghua. Just a little brat. The Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect is just a little brat. What the? How old is this Saintess? 18 or 19? My guess is she's not even 20, and yet she was already made the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect? Could it be that she's the illegitimate child of sect leader Tang? Ha! She's so young and she's already the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect. It seems like Thistles and Thorns sect is really going to be disbanded. They shouldn't have offended the Flame Palace. What a group of reckless people. When the crowd saw Xiao Yu step forward, almost everyone was waiting to see her get destroyed. A little brat who wasn't even 20 could become the Saintess. This was probably a joke. TSK. Xiao Yu could hear the mockeries of the crowd who weren't even trying to mask it. She clenched her hand tightly over her treasured sword and stared ahead furiously. A little brat. When Wan Fanghua saw Xiao Yu, she didn't see her as a threat at all as she commented plainly. Who would like to educate the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect? Wan Fanghua looked in the direction of the disciples of Flame Palace and asked loudly. She had also intentionally chosen to use the word educate. Her contempt for Xiao Yu was clearly evident in her choice of words. That's the sister of Miracle Dr. Wang. Who would have expected her to be the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect? At this moment, among the disciples of the Flame Palace, Mu Wanwan and the few other young men around her saw Xiao Yu and were a little surprised. Saintess? Let me educate this Saintess from the Thistles and Thorns sect. Mu Wanwan's lips curved into a smile. Recalling the day when Wang Xian had embarrassed them in the school canteen, her expression turned as cold as ice. She was fearful of Miracle Doctor. However, that Miracle Dr. Wang had rejected the invitation of Flame Palace consecutively. Under such circumstances, with Flame Palace as her backing, she wasn't fearful, even if she was to face Miracle Dr. Wang. The embarrassment on that day shall be returned to your sister here. Mu Wanwan walked forward. She held a belt sword in her hand and looked down on Xiao Yu arrogantly. I'm Mu Wanwan from Flame Palace. Let me educate you a little, Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect. As she spoke, she lifted one of her hands before continuing, seeing that you are just a little brat, I shall just use one hand. TSK. As to who's going to educate who, this isn't set in stone yet. Xiao Yu gritted her teeth, stared at Mu Wanwan and gradually drew her long sword. Give this Saintess from the Thistles and Thorns sect a lesson she wouldn't forget. Remarked Saintess, Wan Fanghua, emotionlessly. Chapter 245, Pilgrimage or Tearing Down the Place, 4. A second-class force actually has a Saintess. How interesting. I bet that lass from Thistles and Thorns sect couldn't take more than 3 strokes. That Mu Wanwan from Flame Palace seemed to be a level 7 proficient. I guessed she can beat her in just 1 or 2 strokes. Judging from what the Saintess said, they want to teach this lass from Thistles and Thorns sect a lesson. Everyone stared at the field and exchanged views about it. The elders and attendants from Thistles and Thorns sect were overwrought. Despite knowing that Xiao Yu had a domineering inborn constitution, they were worried, as she was going to face a disciple from Flame Palace. After all, it had not been long since Xiao Yu began her cultivation, and she did not have any combat experience. Elder Fang and sect leader Tang at the side looked relieved though. Hee. Elder Lu revealed a faint smile as he looked at his apprentice with a satisfied look under the large cauldron. I'll let you have a go first, lass. Mu Wanwan scorned Xiao Yu with one hand behind her back and another hand holding her belt sword. She raised her eyebrow at her. Fine. Xiao Yu took a deep breath, grasping the sword in her hand. This was her first fight and her first real combat experience. She closed her eyes and recalled the sword movement taught by her teacher and sect leader Tang. Poot, what is that lass doing? Is she too nervous? Ha, the Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect is funny. She is so nervous that she closed her eyes. If such a lass can become a Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect, I think they can really disband. The spectators around them chortled when they saw how Xiao Yu was behaving. The Saintess from Thistles and Thorns sect was amusing. I'm going to attack. Xiao Yu opened her eyes and looked fixedly at Mu Wanwan without any emotion. Hee, lass. Mu Wanwan shook her head disdainfully. However, Xiao Yu held her sword and thrust forward with a sharp radiance on her sword edge and a swift movement just like the wind. Xiao Yu had completely adjusted herself to her peak condition in terms of her speed and strength. This blow was almost at the peak of an attack from a level 8 martial artist. The moment Xiao Yu struck, Mu Wanwan felt as though a lion was coming her way when she looked at the sword propelled at a breakneck speed. Her expression changed abruptly as she quickly put up her block. Ah! A horrified shriek cut the air in the field. Mu Wanwan stared with a ghastly look at the sword that had slashed her belly. Ahon's sword had slit her clothes, and blood was oozing out from it. If Xiao Yu had not altered the course of the sword slightly, she could have killed Mu Wanwan instantly. Shocking. Everyone watched the stage in disbelief as they could not believe their eyes. They were stupefied when they witnessed Xiao Yu's sword slashing the disciple of Flame Palace. With just a stroke, Xiao Yu had almost killed Mu Wanwan, a level 7 martial artist from Flame Palace, in a split second. Swift and mighty move. Her speed and her power are equivalent to a level 8 martial artist. Gosh, the Saintess from Thistles and Thorns sect is a level 8 martial artist? Unbelievable. An instant kill within one stroke. This young girl is domineering. Incredible. She's at least a level 8 martial artist. Well, a juvenile who is not even 20 years old possesses a level 8 strength? Such an intimidating talent. Level 8 martial artist. She could jolly reach Inborn Realm in the future. No wonder Thistles and Thorns sect conferred her as the Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect. She has dominating endowment. Her talent is intimidating. Even the Saint and Saintess from Flame Palace were not as gifted as her. The atmosphere got heated instantly. They stared in disbelief at Xiao Yu, who had slashed the disciple from Flame Palace in a split second. Just now, they were still mocking and scoffing at her. The next moment, she made an instant kill. The intimidating talent. How is this possible? Even the disciples stared at Xiao Yu with shock. With a level 8 strength, she already surpassed many other Flame Palace disciples. The most surprising thing was her endowment. The faint smile on Saintess Luan Fenghua's lips slowly disappeared. Her eyes glittered as she fixed her eyes at Xiao Yu with surprise. The 4 elders below the large cauldron were taken aback as they looked at Xiao Yu. A Saintess of second-class sect at the age of 18 or 19 actually possessed the strength of a level 8 martial artist. Her endowment was even better than their saint and saintess. Did I win? Xiao Yu fixed her eyes on Mu Wanwan, who was horrified, and asked impassively. Her voice was heard throughout the field. Everyone halted their breathing for a moment and stopped their conversations. It was so quiet that everyone could hear a pin drop. Well, well. What a wonderful Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect and Tang Linglong. Elder Lu sat under the large cauldron and muttered in a low voice with a gloomy look. Elder Lu, she's just a lass with extraordinary talents. Before she's a grown-up, she's still a lass. Upon hearing what Elder Lu said, he answered with a dismissive expression. He stood up slowly and cast a look at Xiao Yu. With a beam, he said, very good. The young lady has such an outstanding talent to achieve level 8 at such a young age. What's going on? An elder of Flame Palace praised her personally. Don't tell me that this elder is fond of talents. The surrounding crowd was puzzled as they watched the elder of Flame Palace stand up. Wang Yu, right? Well done, the old man continued his praise. It would be a waste for this supreme talent to stay in Thistles and Thorns sect. But after all, you're a saintess. Why not this? I'll make an arrangement today. Since the Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect is such a gifted person, we have a disciple who is a descendant of a highly ranked member in Flame Palace. I've decided to let Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect marry the descendant of Attendant Peng. The old man stood beside the giant cauldron and announced this right away. What? Does the Flame Palace want to have an allegiance marriage with Thistles and Thorns sect? If she marries the descendant of a highly ranked member in Flame Palace, wouldn't Thistles and Thorns sect be affiliated with Flame Palace? This would be a blessing in disguise. Everyone below the stage froze for a moment before they began their discussion frantically again. Some of them envied Thistles and Thorns sect for having a blessing in disguise. Yet, the elder's words stunned the disciples of the Flame Palace. The descendant of Attendant Peng? Isn't he Peng Fengyun? That ugly idiot? To betroth the Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect to that idiot, Peng Fengyun, he must be in luck. TSK, that Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect looks pretty. That ugly and silly idiot is really lucky. Disciples of the Flame Palace paused for a while before they whispered. Even though their voices were soft, all the martial artists around them could hear them. When they heard the whispering of Flame Palace disciples, they froze immediately. To betroth the Saintess of Thistles and Thorns sect to an ugly and idiotic disciple was obviously an insult. Nothing was more humiliating than this. Chapter 246, Are You All Worthy? 1. What? Xiao Yu, who was standing on the stage, was shocked to see the elder who stood up and decided her marriage suddenly. Her marriage wasn't something that could be casually determined by others. Moreover, she was asked to marry a mentally challenged guy. Were they trying to humiliate her? Below the stage, sect leader Tang and Elder Feng looked aghast upon hearing the elder of the Flame Palace. Elder, you don't have to worry about the marriage of a disciple of the Thistles and Thorns sect. Moreover, we are just a small second-class force. There's no way we deserve someone from the Flame Palace. Sect leader Tang immediately stood up and said bitterly. As long as I say it can, it can. This matter is settled. That old man looked nonchalantly at sect leader Tang and spoke in a definitive tone. It's over, the future of that genius girl is ruined. Marrying an idiot? So what if he's the descendant of a highly ranked member of the sacred sect? What a humiliation. Thistles and Thorns sect finally found a genius young girl. Yet, she has to marry an idiot from the Flame Palace. What a huge insult. This young lady has chosen the wrong sect. It will be easy for her to join a first-class force or even a sacred sect. She might very well make it to the Outstanding Young Heroes chart one day and become an inborn expert. Around them, voices of discussion didn't stop. However, they did not mock the Flame Palace or say a single word that suggested Flame Palace was wrong. This was a manifestation of the influence Flame Palace possessed. Interesting. Trying to humiliate us. Below the stage, Wang Xian saw the old man acting like his words were the decree of an emperor. Instantly, murderous intent flashed in his mind. Even an idiot wishes to marry my sister. Is the Flame Palace crazy? Wang Xian remarked emotionlessly, stepping forward and staring at the old man. Huh? Wang Xian's voice shocked the surrounding crowd. Who dares to retort the elder of the Flame Palace? Are you seeking death? The crowd followed the source of the voice and looked over. The elder from the Flame Palace was shocked. He squinted his eyes, stared at Wang Xian and was shocked. So it's Miracle Dr. Wang. I had not expected this genius young girl to be your sister. The elder of Flame Palace looked ahead as he commented. Miracle Dr. Wang. Miracle Dr. Wang. There's only one miracle doctor that is so young. He must be the 8th-ranked Miracle Doctor Wang from Rivertown. So this young girl is the sister of Miracle Dr. Wang. An 8th-ranked Miracle Doctor on the Miracle Doctors chart. There's no wonder his sister is so strong. I was still wondering how a small thistles and thorns sect could nurture such a talented young girl. The crowd looked towards Wang Xian and exclaimed. Miracle Dr. Wang, isn't this a great thing? At this moment, Elder Lu stood up slowly. A ruthless light flashed in his eyes as he continued, Our Flame Palace wished to invite you to join us but was rejected. If this goes through, although Miracle Dr. Wang couldn't join our Flame Palace, you can become related to us. That's a good outcome too. Elder Lu's word shocked the crowd as they looked at Wang Xian. Who could have expected Miracle Dr. Wang to reject Flame Palace's invitation? We are talking about an invitation from a sacred sect. As a new sacred sect, if Miracle Dr. Wang joins them, he would definitely be treated generously. Who would have expected him to reject the invitation? He. Asking my sister to marry a retard. Wang Xian looked emotionlessly at Elder Lu. He's not a retard. He's the descendant of someone who has contributed much to the Flame Palace. His standing in the Flame Palace won't be low. Elder Lu's lips curved up slightly. Is it so? Wang Xian laughed mockingly. A light flickered in his eyes as he looked in the opposite direction. At that place, an expressionless young man stood there. He had short hair and a devilish aura around him. The young man felt the gaze from Wang Xian, bowed respectfully and nodded his head. Following which, the young man looked to the central location coldly. A retard of the Flame Palace wishes to marry a girl favored by the gods. Isn't the Flame Palace a little too indulged in your own fantasies? Are you guys deserving of her? He walked slowly ahead with a cold smirk without a tinge of fear that he was facing a sacred sect. Huh? The crowd was surprised by the voice and looked in the direction of it. Who's that young man? Is he courting death? Everyone looked over and was confused by the young man in front of them. Elder Lu also turned around immediately and stared coldly at the young men. Before the elders of Flame Palace said a word, the saintess, Wan Fanghua, remarked coldly, a descendant of one of the contributors of Flame Palace isn't someone you can comment on casually. You are digging your own grave by insulting the disciples of the Flame Palace. He. The young man gave a sarcastic smile and continued, Can it be that trash disciples of Flame Palace can't be criticized by others? Just because you are from a sacred sect? Exactly. It's because we are from a sacred sect. Saintess, Wan Fanghua, stared domineering at the young man. She waved the long sword lightly in her hand before continuing, If you say another word, I'll definitely slay you. Ha! At this moment, the young man burst into laughter. I'm Wusher. Since the saintess of Flame Palace wishes to slay me, it's only natural that I take on the challenge. Wusher was a name used by Mo Wusher in the underworld. Mo Wusher leaped and descended onto the field. He looked at the 4 elders at the central location and smirked. I'm guessing the elders of Flame Palace wouldn't fight with a junior. Am I right? Diamond Bone Wusher. He's the 19th ranked Wusher on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Wusher was one favored by the gods, who emerged from nowhere half a month ago. As a rogue cultivator, he made it to the 19th position on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart at the young age of 26 years old. Wusher from the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. What is he trying to do? Challenge the Saint and Saintess of Flame Palace? I heard that Wusher has been going around challenging various geniuses. Just a while ago, he defeated the 19th ranked genius and replaced him on the chart. When the crowd heard Mo Wusher reveal his name, they were slightly shocked. At the central location, the elders of Flame Palace squinted their eyes and fixed their gazes on him. You. Saintess, Wan Fanghua, stared coldly at Mo Wusher and remarked, a 19th ranked guy on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart isn't qualified to make our elders take you on. Since you want to kick up a fuss today, I just have to cut you down, said the Saintess. She handled the long sword in her hands slowly and said, Diamond Bone? I'll turn you into a corpse today. Ha, just you alone. Oh, little Saintess of the Flame Palace, you are just trash to me. Come forward with that saint, shouted Mo Wusher brazenly as he stared at Wan Fanghua. His arrogance was through the skies. The surrounding crowd stared at the brazen Mo Wusher in disbelief. Is there something wrong with his head? How is he so daring to taunt the saint and saintess of the Flame Palace here? Chapter 247, Are You All Worthy? 2. Everyone stared at the extremely arrogant Mo Wusher. In their eyes, this Wusher might be a retard. How dare he taunt the saint and saintess of Flame Palace? He was obviously digging his own grave. The Flame Palace would never let him off. I'll kill him, said Saint of Flame Palace indifferently. He had been keeping his quiet. As he spoke, he gazed at Mo Wusher. No you don't. How dare a 19th ranked guy on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart speak impudently? Let me slaughter him. Saintess Wan Fanghua cast a glance at Saint Mo Tsanghai. With an arm swing, she held her sword in her hand. She fixed her eyes on Mo Wusher and said coldly, You'll pay for your brazen words with your life. As soon as she finished her words, she dived out like a dancing swallow on fire. Her body was glowing with red radiance as she darted towards Mo Wusher. What light, flexible footwork and fiery attack. Saintess at the peak of level 8 has such mighty attacking power. Even I, as a level 9 martial artist, would be terrified by her assault. Too formidable. Since average disciples of Flame Palace are capable of beating someone of their same level, the strength that Saintess possesses will be more intimidating. A moth that flies into the flame. Mo Wusher was emotionless when he saw the light and fast figure attacking him. He stretched out his arm with black aura exuding from his body. Show me what the Saintess of Flame Palace has got. Both of his arms danced in the air as the sword of Wan Fanghua approached him. Go and die. Wan Fanghua's eyes were filled with killing intent. She jerked her arm, and the sword burst into flames. She aimed and thrust her sword at Mo Wusher's arm. Bam, bam, bam. However, a crisp and clear sound was heard when the honed sword fell on Mo Wusher's arm. The golden blade aura could not win against the mortal flesh and bones. What? Saintess Wan Fanghua made a different expression as she wielded her sword with a stern face. The battle of the sword and physical body was actually on par. The diamond bone lives up to his name. He's so formidable that even Saintess Wan Fanghua could not break through his defense. Isn't he impressive? Saintess is in the top 50 on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. All the spectators were stunned as they placed their attention on the fight between the two people. Saintess Wan Fanghua wielded her sword, aiming all the vital parts of Mo Wusher. His face was looking colder than before. Shoo! A flash of red light darted straight in his eyes. Mo Wusher jerked his arm and divine dragon scales emerged on his hand. Pa! His palm grabbed the sword immediately while he moved his body closer to Saintess Wan Fanghua, who was shocked by it. Mo Wusher charged at her with almighty physical strength. Bam! Weak. Too weak. Saintess of Flame Palace is just so. Mo Wushi struck a heavy blow to Wan Fenghua's chest. She puked a mouthful of blood and looked pale. He laughed loudly as he retreated 10 meters away from her. With a pair of eyes that shone like torches, he glared at Saint Mo Tsanghai. Next. Boom. Mo Tsanghai's body quaked, and a faint flaming aura encircled him. He stared at Mo Wushi coldly. Die. He's formidable. Wan Fenghua could not help but puke a mouthful of blood at the side. With a pale-looking face, she warned Mo Tsanghai. She was macabre as she looked fixedly at the arrogant figure. What? Saintess was already defeated? Dominating. Diamond Bone Wusher's assault was overbearing. His powerful defense vanquished her in all aspects. His strength is definitely higher than his ranking on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Saintess is defeated. Gosh. The surrounding crowd got the shock of their lives. The 4 elders of Flame Palace sitting in the central position had a slight vile expression. A rogue cultivator defeated their Saintess of Flame Palace at this time. If word about what happened today got around, the Flame Palace would definitely be embarrassed. I made myself clear. Only when 2 of you join hands can you qualify to fight with me. One is just a long way to go. Mo Wushi scoffed at Mo Tsanghai. Stop your arrogance. Mo Tsanghai showed signs of embarrassment on his cool-looking face. He made a shift move and struck Mo Wushi. Ha! Mo Wushi cackled as his body was shrouded within a demonic aura. I'm capable of doing that in front of you. Audacious and boundless arrogance. The disciples of Flame Palace around exhibited extremely dreadful looks. Their expressions sunk as they fixed their attention on Mo Wushi. If it were not for the presence of the various sects and families from different provinces here, they would have besieged and whacked that arrogant fellow. However, they could not do it now. Even if they dared to do it, the reputation of Flame Palace would be ruined. The 4 Flame Palace elders sat in the field with darkened expressions as they gazed at the fight with cold faces. Mo Wushi and Mo Tsanghai's battle broke out instantly. Mo Tsanghai, ranked 14th on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart, was the saint of Sacred Sect Flame Palace. He was a level 9 martial artist before he turned 32. Hence, his endowment was intimidating. But even so, Mo Tsanghai was at the total losing end when he battled with Mo Wushi. Everyone was stupefied as they watched Mo Wushi suppressing Mo Tsanghai with his fearsome steel bones and iron muscles. The saint was powerless to put up a resistance. Saint of Sacred Sect is just so. Mo Wushi rolled his 5 fingers into claws. Black aura wrapped around his hands and his hands took the form of dragon claws. You lose. He burst out a clap of laughter and ripped the person in front of him with a claw. Mo Tsanghai was horrified as he quickly raised his arm to block the blow. When the terrifying crash was felt, his face went grisly. Ah! Mo Wushi gripped and scratched the arm of Mo Tsanghai with 5 fingers. 5 deep and bloody marks were left on it with wounds that went deep into the bone. Blood dripped as Mo Tsanghai stared at Mo Wushi, who withdrew his arms slowly. Mo Tsanghai was looking vile. Mo Wushi was ostentatious. He had a disdainful face, and was full of arrogance. Even the Saintess and Saint of Flame Palace were defeated. I wonder if there are other outstanding young people from Flame Palace. Mo Wushi swept his gaze across the disciples of Flame Palace with a sneer. Finally, he looked at the 4 elders in the field. Elders, given the strength of your disciples, how can the Flame Palace be worthy of this girl who is favored by God? Darn! This Wushi is such a braggart. He's asking for death. That is simply taking the disciples of Flame Palace as trash. That's right. Wang Xian looked at Mo Wushi with satisfaction. Talking about flaunting, Mo Wushi was still very good at it. He took a glance at the injured Saintess and Saint before he sneered. He turned to the elders of Flame Palace. Elders, since anyone can beat the hell out of the Saintess and Saint of Flame Palace, I think you can forget about this marriage. Since your Saintess and Saint turned out to be this way, whichever descendant of that highly ranked member, does he deserve it? Wang Xian scorned and sneered at them. The one who humiliates others can be humiliated too. Since Flame Palace wanted to show off the strength of their younger generation, then they would just vanquish the Saint and Saintess. Chapter 248, All-Rounded Suppression. The line, "Are you deserving?" resounded throughout the entire field. Everyone was dumbfounded as they turned to Wang Xian and the Flame Palace. "Are you deserving?" This had shamed the members of the Flame Palace. "You aren't deserving." At this moment, Mo Wuxia, who was standing in the middle of the field, made a shocking remark. His remark seemed to be a response to Wang Xian's question. After which, he walked to Xiao Yu and did something that made the crowd into disheveled. Mo Wuxia went down on one knee in front of Xiao Yu. With his head lowered slightly, he said, "Saintess, if there's anything Wuxia can do to be of help to you in the future, please give me your orders." Rumble. Everyone in the field looked at them in disbelief. The one favored by the gods, Wuxia, questioned if Flame Palace could merit a girl like Xiao Yu. Miracle Dr. Wang questioned whether Flame Palace was deserving of Xiao Yu. Also, the proud son of heaven, Wuxia, kneeled respectfully in front of the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect like a servant. Together, this was equivalent to openly questioning if Flame Palace was qualified to match with the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect. A slap. A tight slap to their faces. A while ago, Flame Palace declared with dominance the marriage of the Saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect with a retard from the Flame Palace. The next moment, a miracle doctor and a proud son of heaven questioned their qualifications through a display of strength. "Do you guys merit her? Are you deserving?" The entire field had quietened down. At this moment, no one dared to say a word. The four elders of Flame Palace in the middle of the field were aghast and stood up coldly. Rumble. Strong flames raged on from the large cauldron behind them as the sounds of fire burning resounded in the field. Their eyes fell gradually on Wang Xian and Mo Wuxia. Miracle Dr. Wang of Rivertown. At this very moment, a middle-aged man, who was wearing attire with a large mountain embroidered on it, stared at Wang Xian with a vengeance from the corner of the field. "It's all because of him that our Lingyue sect suffered such great losses," said the middle-aged man to the old man beside him. The old man nodded his head as his eyes turned cold. He squinted his eyes and looked towards Mo Wuxia who was in the field. This rascal is clearly standing up for Miracle Dr. Wang. In that case. The lips on the old man slowly arched into a smirk. Since Lingyue sect was at deep enmity with Miracle Dr. Wang, he might as well get on the good books of Flame Palace at this moment. The old man stepped forward and shouted, "Rascal, how dare you be so brazen to the sacred sect, Flame Palace? Are you courting death? Are you courting death?" The voice of the old man broke the silence in the field and resounded in the ears of the crowd. "Huh? This voice? That's the aura of an inborn expert." Just as the old man opened his mouth, everyone was shocked and looked over quickly. "It's the sect leader of Lingyue sect." Lingyue sect. Is he? An old man walked towards the middle of the field amidst the gazes from the crowd. He was staring coldly at Mo Wuxia. The crowd was slightly shocked and soon understood what was happening. The sect leader of Lingyue sect was intending to take on Mo Wuxia. As a sacred sect, the elders of the Flame Palace couldn't act as they wished when Mo Wuxia defeated their saint and saintess. If they did, the Flame Palace would bear the name of a bully and one who didn't follow the customs and rules. Although Mo Wuxia was arrogant, his challenge to the saint and saintess of the Flame Palace was official after all. The Flame Palace couldn't possibly kill him just because he defeated the saint and saintess of the Flame Palace. As a new sacred sect, they had to pay a lot of attention to their reputation. However, even if the Flame Palace couldn't act themselves, it didn't mean others couldn't act on their behalf. The sect leader of Lingua sect was attempting to get on the good books of the Flame Palace. Seeing the approaching sect leader of Lingua sect, the 4 elders of Flame Palace revealed a gratified look. As a sacred sect, there would be times when they wouldn't have to handle some matters themselves because others would volunteer to do it for them. Rascal, you must be eager to die for being so arrogant to the Flame Palace. I'll give you 3 minutes. Get lost or die. The sect leader stared at Mo Wuxia as he spoke emotionlessly. At the same time, he sent the aura of an inborn expert towards Mo Wuxia directly. Mo Wuxia was surprised. He covered himself in a devilish aura as he tried to withstand the aura of the sect leader of Lingua sect. If Wuxia still chooses to act rashly, he is likely to be killed. He's too arrogant. Under such circumstances, even if the Flame Palace doesn't act, there would be people jumping out to teach Wuxia a lesson. Although they were slightly surprised by Wuxia initially, they weren't exactly surprised to see an inborn expert targeting Mo Wuxia. TSK. How dare you be so arrogant in the territory of our Flame Palace? Even if we don't do a thing, others would step forward to put you down. When the group of disciples of Flame Palace saw an inborn expert stepping forward to target Mo Wuxia, they smiled cockily. They wouldn't need the elders to do anything and there would naturally be experts who would step in. Everyone looked at Mo Wuxia who was in the middle of the field. At this moment, he probably couldn't be arrogant. He's just a junior. As an inborn expert, why are you so calculative? However, just as everyone thought that the sect leader of Lingua sect would act to suppress Mo Wuxia, a cold voice sounded. An invisible aura blocked the stifling pressure of an inborn expert from Lingua sect directly. What? An inborn expert? There's an inborn expert who wants to stick up for Wuxia. Is this an open confrontation with the Flame Palace? Everyone was shocked and immediately turned their head over. At the corner where the people from Flow City gathered, a middle-aged man held a long sword in his hand, his hair covering his face. Maniac G. The crowd was stunned and so was the sect leader of Lingua sect. He stared intensely at him as his expression turned solemn. Maniac G. The elders and disciples of Flame Palace looked over coldly. Maniac G of Flow City. The sect leader of Lingua sect stared harshly at him and chided, "This is a matter of Lingua sect. You can't stop me. I'd love to give it a try." Suddenly, an emotionless voice sounded from the crowd. A strong aura swept towards the sect leader of Lingua sect directly. The strong approaching aura shocked the sect leader of Lingua sect. What? Everyone in the crowd immediately looked over. It was another middle-aged man standing beside the Thistles and Thorns sect. He was staring harshly at the sect leader of Lingua sect. Get back to your sect. Otherwise, Lingua sect won't have a single peaceful day. The middle-aged man was none other than Mo Yuan, who demanded coldly. Fuck. 2 inborn experts. 2 freaking inborn experts. What is he trying to do? Challenging the Flame Palace openly? Oh my god. There are 2 inborn experts now. This is too terrifying. The sect leader of Lingua sect tried to suppress the proud son of heaven, Wuxia. To his astonishment, 2 inborn experts stepped forward to safeguard him. What a domineering appearance. Who is that middle-aged man standing beside the Thistles and Thorns sect? What a terrifying aura he has. Why haven't I heard of such an inborn expert? The surrounding crowd was shocked to witness the development of events. What's going on? What is this leader of Fengyang family doing? Why did he suddenly retreat? I have no idea. His action was perplexing. We can't guess the thoughts of an inborn expert. The crowd commented in astonishment. However, sect leader of Lingyue sect had a dramatic change in his expression on the stage. He found himself in a difficult position as he looked at the two inborn experts who were staring back at him. Bam! Stand back, everyone. Are you courting your own doom to seek troubles on our territory? Inborn experts could be distinguished by their battle prowess and could be separated into 4 tiers. The 4 tiers were Exploratory Inborn, Small Mastery Inborn, Great Mastery Inborn and Pinnacle Inborn. The 4 of them had the strength level of a Small Mastery Inborn expert. Together with the unique art of cultivation of the Flame Palace, they could fight with a Great Mastery Inborn expert. Chapter 251, Never See a Pretty Girl Before. Boom! As the voice of Miracle Dr. Blood Man trailed off, the holy ray illumination displayed by Miracle Dr. Shenhua was suddenly flushed with blood. The holy light encompassing a radius of 5 meters was stained with a bloody color. Hayak hayak! Miracle Dr. Blood Man let out a clap of wild laughter as he charged swiftly and ferociously towards Shenhua. How did this happen? Shenhua was horrified as he watched the Miracle Dr. Blood Man charging at him with disbelief. Cheap old man, you lost. Miracle Dr. Blood Man was thrilled. His nails were long, exuding a glistening bloody mist. Why weren't you punished by the holy light? Shenhua was appalled as he raised the staff in his hand and struck heavily at the Miracle Dr. Blood Man. Because you're too weak. Miracle Dr. Blood Man slashed at Shenhua's staff. The absence of the limiting effect from 2 different attributes freaked Shenhua out. Logically speaking, the holy light emitted from his staff should have dissolved the blood in Miracle Dr. Blood Man. But nothing happened. On the contrary, he realized the other party was undaunted by the power of holy light. Incredible, that Miracle Dr. Blood Man is incredible. Domineering. Both of them are simply domineering. Shenhua lives up to his name with his daunting combat ability. That holy ray illumination looked like it could purify me in one go. That vampire was more formidable. Wasn't the holy light supposed to suppress vampires? Why is he badly beaten up now? Everyone around spectated the duel with disbelief. This was another kind of combat of medical skills. Interesting. The battle between Xiaohong and Shenhua felt like combat between 2 mages, said Wang Xian with a smile, as he could tell that Miracle Dr. Blood Man had suppressed Shenhua completely. Young master, the art of cultivation in Euramerica is like this. In ancient Europe, they have knights, mages, and witches just like our ancient martial arts experts. They may have different cultivation systems, but they are ultimately similar too. Mo Qinglong explained to Wang Xian, they have mages and knights in Euramerica. Shenhua and Miracle Dr. Blood Man were more of mages who attack with elements. However, Miracle Dr. Blood Man had a stronger physique. Besides, Mo Qinglong paused for a moment. Euramerica has the most comprehensive cultivation system. They have many experts that are much more formidable than our side. Really? Wang Xian was slightly taken aback as he looked at Mo Qinglong. Mo Qinglong nodded. The ancient martial artist families in the underworld like to keep to themselves. They don't share their skills with outsiders. Hence, many secret manuals that contained powerful skills were lost. However, they have a more complete inheritance system in Euramerica. Take Shenhua's holy light for instance. If he has a chance to practice a higher level of cultivation, Miracle Dr. Blood Man has an equal chance too. But such cultivation arts can only be found in sacred sects here in the underworld. Mo Qinglong spoke as though he was reminiscing. When spiritual treasures were spotted in spiritual mountains in the underworld, the news was leaked, drawing many powerful forces from overseas to compete for them. In the end, we lost them to someone else in our territory. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. He may not have understood other places, but not many experts were found in the underworld. Most of them were concentrated in sacred sects. Like Flame Palace, who just got promoted, they already had dozens of inborn experts. Those long-standing sacred sects should be even stronger. Maybe they possessed a more high-class combat ability. You're gone. At this time, the haughty voice of Miracle Dr. Bloodman was heard. Wang Xian looked over. He saw Miracle Dr. Bloodman tearing Xinhua with a bloody claw, leaving deep bloody marks on him. Xinhua was pale-looking. Immense bright energy healed the injuries on his body. But his face was grim as the thick blood was constantly absorbing the energy from his body. Ha, Xinhua, are you convinced now? Miracle Dr. Bloodman stood in front of him with a cocky face. He looked just like a villain when he stood tall and high, overlooking Miracle Dr. Xinhua. Upon seeing his stance, Xinhua had a dreadful expression. Even his body was jittery. Geez, that's too strong. That vampire was tough. I think even the two inborn experts may not be a match for this vampire. Their art of cultivation is compelling. Given our techniques, inborn experts can only take flight in the sky for a short moment. Yet, they can form wings, and even battle in the air with their cultivation arts. Read more chapter on VIP novel. What they practiced was magic, using a special way to perform remote attacks with their spiritual strength. The experts in the underworld are more proficient in using weapons such as swords and sabers. Each has their own strengths. The crowd, including inborn experts, exclaimed too. By the way, the vampire seemed to mention that his master is a friend of Miracle Dr. Wang. He has a master. Suddenly, some people realized something. That vampire had said he has a master before his fight just now. His master. Such an existence like him as a master. Everyone was stupefied. Does such a daunting existence actually have a master? Then how domineering could his master be? Beyond imagination. Back at Fengyang family, Fengyang Lai could not believe it. He was wiping cold sweat that broke out on his forehead with a tissue paper. I admit defeat. Shenhua said with a low voice and grave expression as he clenched his fist tightly. Ha, great that you admit defeat. Don't be arrogant and keep a low profile. Do you get it? Miracle Dr. Bloodman educated Shenhua with a conceited face. Hayak. Subsequently, Miracle Dr. Bloodman burst out laughing. With a swift movement, he darted to Sun Lingxiu like a bloody shadow. Master, how did I do? Am I not impressive? Miracle Dr. Bloodman lifted his chin and asked Sun Lingxiu just like an elementary student who just got first in his class. Not bad. Sun Lingxiu praised him without much emotion except drawing a faint smile on her face. Gulp. All the people, including the disciples from Flame Palace, cast their glances over there in disbelief. They could not help but gulp. That pure and holistic girl is the master of the vampire. Gosh, this. What a pure and holy goddess. Her demeanor is impressive. Given the temperament she exhibited, she seems like a fairy from heaven. Is she a princess from some sacred sects or sacred clans? Gosh, she's the master of the vampire. Given her demeanor, she doesn't seem to be groomed by any average forces. Besides, the fairy doesn't seem to be weak. The super cocky and domineering vampire is acting like a child, waiting to be praised over here. This. Everyone was shocked to see this. Even the four elders from Flame Palace looked at Sun Lingxiu with grave expressions. What kind of backings did she have for the mighty vampire to be a slave to her? Or what strength did she possess? What are you looking at? Never see a pretty girl before? Miracle Dr. Bloodman stared and chided those people who were staring at them. Chapter 252, Conduct Yourself Well. Shocking. Everyone looked at them with shock and disbelief. Seeing how arrogant and savage Miracle Dr. Bloodman was, the crowd quickly averted their gazes. Only the 4 elders in the central location continued staring. However, they were clearly embarrassed and infuriated. The Flame Palace had truly been embarrassed today. A disciple of Flame Palace was completely thrashed by a saintess of a second-class force. The saint and saintess of Flame Palace were easily crushed by a rogue cultivator. The one who had defeated them was extremely arrogant. Flame Palace couldn't do anything, as they were concerned about how others would view them. Inborn experts tried to stick up for them but were forced to back away by 2 other inborn experts. And now, Miracle Dr. Shenghua, whom the palace master had invited personally, was defeated by an unknown vampire. In quick succession, one after another. Initially, Flame Palace wanted to make use of this opportunity to recruit disciples and experts while displaying their might. However, the outcome was beyond their expectations as they were humiliated consecutively. This made the 4 elders of the Flame Palace unusually furious. It's all because of that guy. The 4 elders looked at Wang Xian, who was below the stage. Strong killing intent leaked out from their gazes. If it wasn't for Miracle Dr. Wang, how would Flame Palace be humiliated as such? How would their disciples and miracle doctors be defeated in quick succession? He deserves death for tarnishing the reputation of Flame Palace. Elder Lu directed his voice softly to the other 3 elders around him. Our Flame Palace shouldn't just take this humiliation. There's only one outcome for him for offending us. Kill. He's just a small miracle doctor no matter how many strong experts surround him. The reputation and name of Flame Palace aren't things that can be infringed upon. The other 3 elders replied coldly immediately. What Miracle Dr. Wang had done today was deserving of 10,000 deaths in their eyes. Call upon a few other elders tomorrow. We shall announce the Flame Palace's killing order and we must definitely kill him. Elder Lu was filled with killing intent. His gaze swept across Maniac Ji, Mo Yuan, Wuxia, and the crowd. If it wasn't for the fact that they were wary of how others might view them, they would have struck right away. For those who wish to join our Flame Palace, level 8 martial artists and above can apply for direct enrollment. Elder Lu looked to the surrounding crowd and said solemnly with an expressionless face, "Today, the selection of disciples for Flame Palace shall end here." What? It's ending so quickly. It's just been 2 hours and they are ending it now. This. The surrounding crowd was taken aback as they had not expected the Elder of Flame Palace to announce the end so quickly. This might be due to. Some people looked to where Wang Xian was as their eyes lit up. Flame Palace wanted to display the might and authority of a sacred sect today. In the end, they got a tight and ruthless slap from Miracle Dr. Wang of Rivertown. Their disciple, saint, and saintess were defeated. Even the miracle doctor that their Flame Palace had invited personally was defeated. Nonetheless, the connections that Miracle Dr. Wang had displayed greatly shocked the crowd. In fact, even Flame Palace did not act hastily and swallowed their grievances. However, Flame Palace won't just let this go. As a newly crowned sacred sect, they will definitely return the humiliation they suffered 10 folds over. Otherwise, their authority would be non-existent. The surrounding crowd thought to themselves. Miracle Dr. Wang, our Flame Palace will remember the incidents of today. As many had expected, the voice of the elders of Flame Palace sounded at this moment. Elder Lu stared coldly at Wang Xian with fervent killing intent. He gritted his teeth and remarked with a gruesome expression, "Miracle Dr. Wang, I hope you conduct yourself well in the future." As he finished his sentence, his eyes swept across Maniac Ji, Mo Yuan, the vampire, Sun Lingxiu, and the crowd of the Thistles and Thorns sect. Indeed. When the crowd saw the cold looks of Elder Lu, they immediately understood a feud had broken out between the Flame Palace and Miracle Dr. Wang. Moreover, Miracle Dr. Wang would most likely encounter a mishap soon. Oh. Wang Xian revealed a smirk and replied to the elder from the Flame Palace, "You can remember it if you wish. As to how I should conduct myself, I don't need you to remind me." "Ha, great. I'm impressed by your courage." Tisk. Elder Lu laughed loudly and stared harshly at Wang Xian before turning around and left. The other elders also gave Wang Xian cold looks before heading towards the depths of Wuduan Mountain. In the middle of the field, the disciples of Flame Palace also looked fiercely at Wang Xian. "Cultivate diligently when you get back. Those who offend the Flame Palace will definitely die." The saint, Mo Canghai, glanced at Mo Wushi sternly and sneered. In the middle of the field, Mu Wanwan gritted her teeth as she looked to Xiao Yu before rejoining the group of disciples of Flame Palace shamefully. The group of disciples of Flame Palace left shortly after. Around them, everyone intentionally and unintentionally looked towards Wang Xian as they whispered among themselves. Within Lingyue sect, the sect leader of Lingyue sect was looking extremely displeased. Not only did they fail to get on the good books of the Flame Palace, but they had also offended strong enemies today. Luckily, the Flame Palace will eliminate Wang Xian and the other two inborn experts. Otherwise, we would be in trouble. The sect leader of Lingyue sect glowered at Wang Xian before leading the crowd of Lingyue sect and leaving. Around them, various sects and families also started leaving one after another. The outcome of today's pilgrimage was something they had not expected. They were shocked to see someone humiliating a sacred sect during their pilgrimage. Look out for news on Miracle Dr. Wang of Rivertown for the next few days. I believe Flame Palace will strike within the next 2 days. He should be dead soon. Even if he has great strength and can summon 3 to 4 inborn experts, it would be futile if a sacred sect wished to target a factionless doctor like him. This Miracle Dr. Wang isn't rational to go against an entire sacred sect. He's likely going to be dead soon. Around them, some sects and families whispered softly as they left. "Brother." Xiao Yu walked towards Wang Xian with a blushing face and greeted him softly. "Your performance was pretty good." Wang Xian caressed her head and gave his compliments. "King." Mo Wushi walked over and greeted Wang Xian respectfully. "Yeah." Wang Xian looked at Mo Wushi and nodded his head. "Just continue with your own journey." "Yes, King." Mo Wushi nodded his head. After paying respects to Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan, he turned around and left. Miracle Dr. Wang. At this moment, Maniac Ji and sect leader Tang had also walked over and greeted him solemnly. "Miracle Dr. Wang, Flame Palace will definitely not let the events of today rest. I'm afraid of what's coming next," sect leader Tang frowned and reminded Wang Xian. "I understand." Wang Xian nodded his head and a cold flash of light blitzed past his eyes. "Sect leader Tang, you don't have to worry about this. Conduct myself well. I naturally will do as I see fit." Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Considering what Flame Palace would do next, if he wished to do as he deemed fit, it would be to strike first. Sacred Sect, Flame Palace. Let me show you what I'm capable of. Chapter 253, The Autumn Wind Blows and the Flames Extinguished, 1. "Shu Qing, you'll return to the villa with Elder Fang and Xiao Yu," said Wang Xian to Shu Qing and Xiao Yu when the sects and families gradually dispersed from the square in Wuduan Mountain. "Xiao Xian, you," Shu Qing bit her tongue. "Be careful. Don't worry." Wang Xian caressed Guan Shuqing's head with confidence. He beamed at sect leader Tang. "I hope sect leader Tang can send them back. Rest assured, Miracle Dr. Wang." Sect leader Tang cupped his fist and assured him. Wang Xian nodded and waved goodbye to Guan Shuqing and Xiao Yu. "Brother, come back soon. I'll be back tomorrow morning." "Don't worry." Wang Xian smiled and nodded. "Miracle Dr. Wang, do you intend to strike Flame Palace?" After Xiao Yu and Guan Shuqing were gone, Maniac G looked at Wang Xian and asked with a solemn expression. Even if we don't, they'll still strike at us. Wang Xian smiled impassively. He turned to Mo Yuan. Where is the base camp of Flame Palace? We'll exterminate them today. At the foot of Fiery Rock Mountain, which is more than 100 kilometers away from here. Mo Yuan answered. Maniac G was a little taken aback when Wang Xian took it so easily when he said they were going to exterminate them. Let's go over there. Wang Xian did not have the slightest hesitation. Since he decided, he would execute immediately. Yes. Mo Yuan nodded. Shall we gather the disciples of Dragon Sect? No need. We're good enough. Wang Xian smiled, and Mo Yuan nodded. He immediately went to look for a vehicle. Master, just a few of us are going to strike an Emperor-class family? Isn't it too few of us? Miracle Dr. Blood Man at the side whispered his question to Sun Lingxiu. Following Xiao Xian will do, said Sun Lingxiu nonchalantly. Miracle Dr. Blood Man pouted and kept quiet. He stood respectfully by the side as he sized up Wang Xian and the rest. They had one more inborn expert, which made it 6 in total. To exterminate an Emperor-class force with 6 inborn experts was wishful thinking. The vehicle drove to Fiery Rock Mountain, which was a renowned mountain range of Dongqing province. Fiery Rock Mountain was a colossal active volcano. One could see the rising smoke in the sky from far away. The temperature was higher than in other regions by a few degrees. Volcanoes did not necessarily have magma rumbling underneath. In fact, many volcanoes had now turned into tourist attractions. Flame Palace Sacred Sect did not turn into one such scenic spot, but the scenery was not any inferior to the rest of the beautiful scenic spots. The base camp of Flame Palace is situated on the main peak. The surrounding mountains were for the elders and some disciples. There are 23 peaks in total, out of which, only the main one is connected to the underground volcano. I heard it is the sacred ground for the cultivation of their disciples. Mo Yuan did an introduction to Wang Xian as the vehicle entered the Flame City. As soon as they arrived in the city, they saw the volcanoes far away. Let's find a place to have dinner. We'll go over after sunset, Wang Xian said with a smile after looking at the time. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Yuan nodded as he instructed the driver to drive them to the best restaurant in Flame City. Flame City may have been a small city, but it came with a rich historical heritage. Flaming Flower Restaurant was the best restaurant in Flame City. All their dishes were put together with the various wild animals hunted from the volcano mountains. The group of 6 people went into the restaurant and sat in the main hall of the restaurant. Flaming Flower Restaurant may not have been big, but it looked posh. Sir, we serve the tastiest wild vegetables and meat here. Please try it. Wang Xian and the rest sat down, and the service staff served their dishes warmly not long after. Chinese cuisine is impressive. Miracle Dr. Bloodman sat beside Sun Lingxiu and put a thumb up to compliment. Hee, that's true. Chinese cuisine is the best in the world. Mo Yuan chuckled. Not only do we have delicacies, but we also have pretty girls too. At this time, a quirky voice was heard. It was a distinctive voice that sounded frivolous and dissolute. Her. Mo Yuan and Miracle Dr. Bloodman raised their eyebrows as soon as they heard the remark. They immediately turned to look over to their side. 10 odd-looking men. The 2 tables beside them sat queer people with 7 old men, 2 middle-aged men, and 1 young man. They were all foreigners. The 7 old men had big builds and wore oversized clothes. They exuded an extraordinary demeanor. The old men seemed to be people who had just come out from seclusion. The 2 middle-aged men were ordinary-looking. The young man who spoke was a blonde hunk. Eat your food, and shut up. Stop disgracing the foreigners. When Miracle Dr. Bloodman noticed the blonde hunk was staring at his own master, he glowered at him. Hee, The blonde hunk did not mind him and giggled, "Chinese girls, good skin. Boss, bring all your best dishes here." Just then, a sharp voice was heard from the outside. "Coming. Gentlemen, this way please." Immediately, a middle-aged man in a suit greeted them quickly with reverence. "Gentlemen, please have a seat here." The restaurant manager quickly ushered the 4 people inside. "I heard the news from Wuduan Mountain that a fellow ruined our pilgrimage this time." "Yes, several elders already rushed over here. Even Palace Master found out about this." "Hee, looks like someone is digging his own grave." The 4 gentlemen had outstanding bearings. They lifted their chins as though they were condescending someone as they discussed this briefly. Wang Xian and the group's attention was drawn by the conversations between the 4 young men. They turned around and ignored the young blonde foreigner. "Boss, get us some wine." A young man instructed the middle-aged man in front of him. "If he dares to offend us, he will need to pay a heavy price. We can establish our reputation at the same time." "That's right. Who within the 5 provinces dares to provoke us? He's obviously asking for it. I heard he's a factionless doctor." "Ha." The 4 young men continued their conversations at a table beside Wang Xian and the rest, who smiled as they exchanged glances. The 4 young men must be disciples from Flame Palace. They enjoyed their drinks and exchanged conversations boomingly without any restraint. "I heard our Mu Wanwan was wounded. We must check her out tonight." "Hee. This fellow is up to no good again." But Mu Wanwan was too haughty. "She's difficult. You should find yourself other targets." The young men were exchanging conversations when one of them spotted Sun Lingxiu suddenly. He was slightly stunned as a tinge of passion flashed in his eyes. The saying, "Women are like disasters," was right. This was especially true for pretty ladies. That young man stood up in amazement. "Pretty, are you from Flame City?" Chapter 254, The Autumn Wind Blows and the Flames Extinguished, 2. Just as Sun Lingxiu was eating, a young man walked over and asked her a question directly. This made her knit her eyebrows a little. "Scram and go eat while you can, rascal." Seeing others offending his master again, Miracle Dr. Bloodman lifted his head and chided coldly. "Huh." The response of Miracle Dr. Bloodman immediately stunned the Flame Palace disciple who came to strike a conversation. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He was a disciple of a sacred sect. Furthermore, the group was in their territory. How dare he call him a rascal? "You better choose your words wisely, foreigner. Otherwise, I'll make things difficult for you." The young man stared harshly at Miracle Dr. Bloodman and pointed at him. "You guys better be honest here. Otherwise, I'll let you know whose territory you are in." Hee. At this moment, an appropriate thing to say in Chinese would be, "rescuing the damsel in distress." A voice with a similar accent to Miracle Dr. Bloodman's sounded once again. Following which, a palm suddenly appeared on the shoulder of the young man from Flame Palace. "Hey beauty, this guy is a crook. Now that I have taught him a lesson your behalf, are you going to pledge to marry me in gratitude?" The good-looking guy with blonde hair smiled and looked towards where Sun Lingxiu was. His lips curved into a smile as he gave Sun Lingxiu dirty looks. "You must be courting death." The young man from Flame Palace, whose shoulder was being held, growled angrily. He clenched his fist tightly and charged towards the good-looking guy with blonde hair. Arg! However, just as the young man threw a punch, his body suddenly started trembling violently. He stared at the good-looking guy with blonde hair in front of him with disbelief and shock. "What the? How dare you cause troubles in our territory? Damn it! There are more and more people who wish to die here." The other disciples of Flame Palace stood up immediately and gave the good-looking guy with blonde hair an icy glare. Hee. Just a few trash and yet you dare to speak to me like this? The good-looking guy with blonde hair turned over and said mockingly. A strong aura swept quickly towards the 4 young men from Flame Palace. You. The 4 disciples from Flame Palace choked from the stifling pressure. Their faces turned red quickly as they could only stare at him with their eyes wide open. Scram! With a light push from the good-looking guy with blonde hair, the young man from Flame Palace was knocked back onto the chair behind him. The 4 disciples of Flame Palace were filled with fear and anger instantly as they could only stare with deadly looks at the good-looking guy with blonde hair. I love to see your angry looks. The good-looking golden hair looked at the 4 disciples of Flame Palace as though he was admiring a piece of art. In a light-hearted tone, he continued, but I'd love to see your despairing looks even more. Oh. This should be quick. Heng Wang, it's time to go. At this moment, an old man a short distance away spoke plainly to the good-looking guy with blonde hair. Ha! You don't even allow me to enjoy myself a little. The good-looking guy with blonde hair smiled at them, turned around and said to Sun Lingxiu, Hey beauty, I saved you a while ago. Aren't you going to pledge to marry me? As he spoke, he tapped once at the void space between them before leaving with the group of old and middle-aged men. Behind them, the 4 disciples of Flame Palace glowered at them but didn't dare to give chase. The stifling pressure they felt from the young man with blonde hair had made them experience fear. Interesting. Wang Xian looked at the 10 foreigners before turning to Sun Lingxiu. Sun Lingxiu's eyes lit up as she lifted her right hand and grabbed something off her body. A red flame appeared in her hand. Do you recognize them? She looked to Miracle Dr. Blood Man beside her and asked. This mark? Miracle Dr. Blood Man frowned slightly and answered, Flame. There are a few Emperor-class forces internationally that specialize in flames. From how they addressed the young man with blonde hair, he must be Heng Wang from the Fire God denomination. He frowned and squinted his eyes at the disappearing figures of old and middle-aged men. They are all inborn realm experts, commented Wang Xian plainly. What? Mo Yuan, Maniac Ji, and the others were shocked. All of them are inborn realm experts. There are 10 of them. What are they here for? Mo Qinglong frowned and mumbled. Wang Xian looked at the embarrassed and furious disciples from Flame Palace leaving with gloomy expressions before he smirked and said, it should be related to the Flame Palace. Moreover, they aren't friendly. They aren't friendly. Mo Qinglong and the rest were shocked and quickly sank into thoughts. I know a little about the Fire God denomination. They aren't any weaker than our sacred sects. In fact, they are a lot stronger than the newly crowned sacred sect. They are here for. Doubts surfaced on Mo Qinglong's face. Perhaps. Tonight will be an interesting night, replied Wang Xian with a laugh. How dare he place a tracking flame on my master? If I see the blonde rascal again, I will kill him. Miracle Dr. Blood Man spoke with intense killing intent. Night. The summer had passed and the autumn wind was soughing. The fiery rock mountain was still glowing in a faint light. It was especially so at the main peak. At night, the volcano was shrouded in a red glow that made it exceptionally beautiful. 6 figures descended on a tree 1,000 meters from the entrance silently and waited patiently. Miracle Dr. Wang, it's already 9 p.m. Let's split up to ambush and kill the elders on each peak before they guard against us. Even if we can't annihilate the Flame Palace, we can also make them suffer grave losses. Maniac Ji looked at Wang Xian and suggested. No rush. Let's wait and see. Wang Xian waved his hand at him. He continued standing silently while staring at Flame Palace. Maniac Ji was confused but still waited patiently. Time passed slowly and it was soon 10 p.m. Suddenly, 10 figures appeared from afar. They were moving rapidly like a gust of wind and carried with them an intense and violent aura. It's them. The 10 inborn experts from the restaurant. They are indeed here. Maniac G looked solemnly across at the 10 inborn experts. The 10 of them didn't attempt to hide themselves at all. Each of the 10 figures was glowing and approaching the flame palace like a meteor. How arrogant of them to charge into the flame palace so openly. What are they trying to do? Mo Qinglong frowned and asked. Hu Yu of Flame Palace and Shenhua. Get here right away. How dare you guys steal the treasure of our fire god denomination? Today, we will definitely annihilate the entire flame palace. A majestic voice propagated throughout the entire flame palace and resounded within the fiery rock mountain. A small flame palace stole the treasures of fire god denomination to become a sacred sect in the east. Hee hee. Today, we will annihilate you. A brazen voice sounded once again. In the skies above the main peak, the figures of the 10 inborn experts from the fire god denomination were well illuminated by the flames they emitted. Wings made of flames sprouted behind their backs. 10 of them had completely sealed off the entire flame palace. They weren't concerned about flame palace having more inborn experts than them at all. Neither were they fearful of flame palace. An arrogant, domineering and majestic voice and aura shrouded the entire flame palace. Chapter 255, The Autumn Wind Blows and the Flames Extinguished, 3. Who is it? Who dares to play punk in Flame Palace? Who is it? Who dares to clamor at sacred sect? The resounding voice shook up the entire flame palace. All the disciples walked out of their rooms as they bellowed in anger. They enjoyed the utmost glory after they were promoted from a first-class force to a sacred sect. Everyone treated disciples of Flame Palace with respect, and none of them dared to be rude to them. Now, someone dared to talk big at the Flame Palace. That was as good as digging their own graves. Gosh, there are 10 people in the air. Every Flame Palace disciple was surprised as they looked up towards the main peak. It's true. 10 people with huge flaming wings on their backs. They are inborn experts. 10 inborn experts. Gosh, 10 of them. So what? We have 14 inborn experts guarding the Flame Palace now, all the disciples said with trepidation as they looked over. Who dares to play punk in Flame Palace? Fire God denomination. How dare you barge onto the sacred ground of Flame Palace? You guys definitely have a death wish. One by one, figures sprouted out from each of the peaks, shouting at the 10 inborn experts of Fire God denomination in the sky. Fire God denomination, any capable man can retrieve the spiritual treasures. How dare you barge into Flame Palace with just 10 people? I guess you're here to die. An old man's voice cut the air from the main peak. He had a pair of enormous wings behind him, and he held a flaming spear as though he was a flame warrior. I didn't think you guys would chase all the way here. Looks like you're not giving up. Shenghua's voice was heard too. He flapped the glowing feathered wings and glowered at the people from Fire God denomination. He then flapped towards the palace master of Flame Palace. Flame Palace experts arrived at the back of their palace master. Instantly, 14 inborn experts stood at the back and glared at the Fire God denomination in front of them with sharp and cold eyes. Get out of Flame Palace now. Otherwise, leave your bodies here. Palace Master of Flame Palace, who was in the center spot, glared with a pair of cold eyes. He fixed his eyes on the 10 people with seriousness climbing all over his face. We'll leave after we annihilate you people. One of the old men from the Fire God denomination in the middle chuckled with a ghastly sound. How dare you steal our things and kill a Prince Realm expert? Today, I'll use your flesh and blood as offerings to him. I see. You're here to offer us your lives. Do you think you can annihilate us with just 10 people? The Flame Palace is fearless even if you send the entire Fire God denomination over. Palace Master of Flame Palace looked fixedly at them with a darkened expression. Ha, all of you are trash. 5 exploratory inborn experts. I can kill 2 without any problem. Why do we need the entire fire god denomination here? The blonde-haired young man at the side was looking cool. He stared at the elders of Flame Palace insolently. Kill them all and reclaim our treasures. The old man in the lead stopped the useless talking and made a swift move. His movement was accompanied by a powerful flame that struck directly at the Palace Master of Flame Palace. Kill! Palace Master and Shenhua had awful looks when they saw 10 experts charging at them. They knew the strength of Fire God denomination. Therefore, they had grave expressions. Besiege and wipe them out. The Palace Master bellowed and made a move. His body was shrouded in flames as he darted out to attack the old man at the center. How dare an insignificant pinnacle inborn create a sacred sect? Die! The old man in the middle jerked, and a virtual image of a fire demon appeared on him. The fire demon that was formed with flames encompassed the old man who grew 3 meters tall. Go to hell! The old man swung his enormous fist with daunting strength at the palace master. So strong! He raised his flaming spear to block, but he was pushed back a dozen meters. Palace master had a sharp change in his expression as his eyes were filled with horror. Ah! Yet a desperate scream was heard from the side in that instant. A blue flame shrouded a Flame Palace elder. The creepy blue flame burnt that elder immediately. The elder tried to use his flaming ability to counterattack. But his fiery red flame seemed like a stimulant that ignited a bigger blue fire. A horrifying scream struck consternation in all the people in Flame Palace. In an instant, an elder of Flame Palace was seriously wounded or probably dead. All these things happened in a split second. How is this possible? How could they kill an elder in an instant? It's a raid. They are sneaking an attack. When our palace master realizes it, they can wipe us out even if it's 10 against 13. All the disciples of Flame Palace exclaimed from below. They found it unbelievable that a dozen inborn experts of Flame Palace could not defend the other party with 10 inborn experts. Heavenly Flame. Palace Master was shocked as his expression turned grave immediately. How dare you steal our spiritual treasures? I'll make sure the Flame Palace is wiped out today. The old man who displayed the heavenly flame was looking cold. The blue-colored flame was burning around him. Even the air gave off a loud sound. Make it quick and kill them all. An old man from Fire God denomination shouted as he burst into a giant ball of fire. His entire body was on fire. He swung his arm and blasted a basketball-sized fireball at the Flame Palace elder in front of him. The Flame Palace elder wielded his machete and hacked the ball of fire. Bam! However, metal-like fire droplets fired off a radius of 100 meters from the exploded ball of fire. Ah! At the same time, the disciples of Flame Palace screamed in horror from below. The fire droplets penetrated level 7 and 8 martial artists, and the mightiness of the fire struck terror into them. The spillover fire from the combat burned the surrounding woods. Oh, no! Palace Master and the elders had the shock of their lives. The moment their opponent struck, their hearts already skipped a beat. Go to hell! The blonde-haired young man held a red scepter, firing off tongues of blazing flames at the elders of Flame Palace. Terrifying stance. Ho! Flame Palace elders held their weapons and slashed those flames. Ha! Kill them all. How dare a reserved place snatch Fire God denomination staff? Die! At this time, one middle-aged man from Fire God denomination picked up his flaming spear and sprinted over. The blazing fire was burning atop Flame Palace. Such a sight was spectacular from afar. The gap is huge. As a force for 100 years, Fire God denomination is definitely far more powerful than the Flame Palace. These 10 experts from Fire God denomination were inborn experts with a strong foundation. Those exploratory and born experts from Flame Palace could not hold a candle to them. The Flame Palace is going down soon, said Maniac G and Mo Yuan shockingly as Wang Xian and the rest witnessed this from far. Heavenly Flame, looks like we have a lot of good stuff here. A tinge of red sparks flashed in Wang Xian's eyes as he was ebullient. I haven't struck for a long time. The ball seemed to have been sealed by a lava-like object. Dense flames flooded into the ball. At this moment, cracks started appearing on the exterior layer of the ball and a violent aura started emanating from it. Lava ball. This is a lava ball that was formed 100 meters below the lava. Today, I will reduce you to ashes with it. Heng Wang revealed a thrilled look. Chapter 258, Dragon Ball vs. Flames, 2. Flame Palace is really trash. They only have 1,000+ spiritual stones. They have spent all their spiritual stones on increasing the ability of the body refining spiritual flame ball. They barely have any spiritual medicine left. For a sacred sect to be this poor. Hee, they are really trash. At the entrance of Flame Palace, a few mocking voices sounded. The 9 of them each carried something as they walked out slowly. Huh. Suddenly, the 9 of them stopped. They squinted their eyes and looked ahead of them. 6 people. 6 figures were standing at the entrance and seemed to be waiting for them. Isn't that the beautiful girl from the restaurant? Heng Wang, who was standing at the right of the group, saw Sun Lingxiu and was surprised. Hee, pretty. Are you here to offer yourself to me? Ha! Look! Take a look at how attractive I am. An arrogant voice sounded from Heng Wang as he scrutinized Sun Lingxiu from head to toe with vile eyes. Those are the people we met in the afternoon. An old man looked at the group of people in front of him and was baffled. Eventually, his gaze landed on Miracle Dr. Blood Man. Due to the cultivation arts, he wasn't able to tell the level of Wang Xian and the group. However, he was able to get some clues from Miracle Dr. Blood Man. He seems to be a vampire. As such, the remaining people shouldn't be ordinary either. How dare they wait for us here? The group of people from the Fire God denomination squinted their eyes and looked at Wang Xian's group coldly. Since you dare to kill on our land, are you all prepared to be buried here forever? Wang Xian looked plainly at them while scrutinizing the 9 of them. To wait for us here after seeing us in action. It seems like you guys are pretty brave. The old man in the center of the group stared emotionlessly at Wang Xian and flames had started flowing in his hands. Hee. We aren't as brave as you guys to come to our land and annihilate an entire sect. When Wang Xian saw them carrying something in the back, his smile grew deeper. That's nice of you to pack the treasures nicely for us. Brat, you must be seeking your own demise, the old man in the middle growled angrily. A ball of flames appeared in his hand as he launched his attack towards Wang Xian. Wang Xian was unmoved. With a flick of his finger, the dragon ball appeared in front of him. Rumble. The flames were absorbed immediately by the dragon ball the instant the flames landed on it. Huh! A fire attribute spiritual treasure. When the old man saw the dragon ball that absorbed the flames, his eyes lit up. Spiritual treasure. Ha! It's a fire attribute spiritual treasure. It seems like we are really in luck. Heng Wang saw the dragon ball suspended in the air and got excited immediately. Flame Palace has few treasures. This spiritual treasure would make up for it nicely. The old man stared at it fervently. Stretching his hand forward, flames shrouded over. The flames formed a claw made of fire as it grabbed towards the Dragon Ball. Annihilate all of them. A middle-aged man beside the old man charged ahead enthusiastically and attacked the group. Ha, leave that beautiful girl to me. I've got to teach her a good lesson. Heng Wang's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. The next instant, he charged towards Sun Lingxiu with desecrating eyes. Interesting. How arrogant are they? Wang Xian was clearly getting excited. Stay behind, guys. Let me handle this. Wang Xian was currently level 7. In his human form, his strength could match Dan realm experts, which was above the inborn realm. Up to this point, he had never fought with any human inborn experts. Nonetheless, he could easily kill inborn level creatures in the sea with a single strike. Wang Xian stood there without moving. The Dragon Ball in front of him started glowing dazzlingly under his control. Xiao Xian, leave that young man with blonde hair to me. Sun Lingxiu shouted to Wang Xian suddenly. All right. Wang Xian was slightly shocked initially. However, eventually, he simply nodded his head as a response to Sun Lingxiu. It seems like that young man with blonde hair has really infuriated Sun Lingxiu. What a strong spiritual treasure. When the group from the Fire God denomination saw the dazzling glow and felt the scorching heat from the Dragon Ball, they were shocked. We must definitely get it. Don't let them escape, an old man from Fire God denomination reminded the group loudly and enthusiastically. Rest assured. None of them are getting away. An old man flapped his blue fire wings behind him and shifted to the side. The other experts of the Fire God denomination also flapped their wings at the same time, forming a circle around Wang Xian. In their eyes, they were the hunters. The other party was simply their prey. How arrogant and brazen. Wang Xian revealed a cold look upon seeing the experts from Fire God denomination getting ready to hunt him. Roar. At this moment, a dragon roar pierced through the atmosphere. The surrounding experts from the Fire God denomination looked on in disbelief. The Dragon Ball that was glowing dazzlingly was transforming slowly into a Fire Divine Dragon. A Fire Divine Dragon from the legends of the Chinese. The Divine Dragon was 5 meters long and vivid. At the same time, it was emanating horrifying dragon aura. What? This is. What a horrifying spiritual treasure. What a powerful fire attribute spiritual treasure. Oh my god. It can transform into a divine dragon. All 9 experts from the Fire God denomination stared fervently at that fire divine dragon. It was no different from a living thing. Even its eyes were extremely lively. Maniac G and Miracle Dr. Bloodman, who were standing beside Wang Xian previously, were greatly shaken as they stared blankly at the divine dragon. Ha! Kill! Kill it! The experts of the Fire God denomination weren't wary at all. Instead, they charged over hysterically. We must definitely get that spiritual treasure. Heng Wang clenched his fist tightly and charged ahead. Your opponent is me. A soft and crisp voice sounded from Sun Lingxiu. Dense light energy emanated from her body. An arrow made of light energy appeared out of nowhere and shot towards Heng Wang. Swish! The speed of the arrow was incomparably fast. The speed of light attacks could easily match or exceed the speed of wind. The light attack disappeared in the blink of an eye. What? Heng Wang, who was shrouded in flames, was completely caught by surprise as the arrow made of light energy appeared right in front of him in an instant. He crossed his wings rapidly in front of him. Arg! However, the arrow made of light pierced through the fire wings and into his body directly. He let out a cry in pain. How is this possible? Heng Wang couldn't believe what had happened. Blood oozed out from the edge of his mouth as he stared with a deadly look at Sun Lingxiu. Blonde trash, how dare you taunt my master? You really don't know where you stand. Miracle Dr. Blood Man was cockily satisfied upon seeing his master severely injuring Heng Wang with a single blow. Be careful. Kill. The old man in the center looked at Sun Lingxiu before reminding the group solemnly. Roar. At this moment, the Fire Divine Dragon roared. Its 5-meter-long body flew in circles in the air as it attacked the group of experts from the Fire God denomination. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.